but that's the world you live in because you're a Vulcus. You're pre-Nazi. You're the closest thing to a Nazi on this panel.
Because
PrimeCayes, that's why they picked James Franco. Because James Franco is a degenerate piece of shit that abuses people just like Fidel Castro. All right, boys. I'm back.
Get my fucking...
We're all muted.
Hopefully, Twitch will stop the bandwidth censorship, but usually I gotta wait until the 2-hour mark before it'll allow us to be able to get our real numbers.
Wait, can you hear me?
Myself, yes.
Yes, we can hear you. I'm turning you up though because you're pretty low.
Oh, hello.
And you're really high. What the fuck? Who just talked?
How you doing? 안녕하세요.
Oh,
all right, yeah, you're going down. Either that or everyone else is coming up.
Can't ever miss an offensive joke, can you, Scott?
What? No, dude, that's like a tried and true thing amongst medics in the army, because so many of us end up stationed in Korea that they just get used to saying like you know, oh, hello, 안녕하세요, like especially as soon as they get back from Korea, like they literally can't normally just say hello or hi for like a month or two. They're like, hello. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, he just got back from Korea. Like they just pick up that voice inflection and everything on the hello. Hilariously though, I was in a habit of doing it because all my buddies did it and like just kind of memeing around being like, oh, hello. And I went into a ramen shop when I was out of the army and opened the door and they were like hello, and I just went, oh, hello, and then I was just like immediately turned around. I was like, I just did the most racist thing ever. I didn't even mean to do that. Like I can't even, like I couldn't even, I was like, there's no way my food is not getting spit in. I'm out. Like I can't believe I just did that on accident because I was just in such a habit of doing it.
I hope Prime was not streaming when he rolled in.
I don't give a fuck if he was streaming.
Anyway.
Moving over hello. 안녕하세요. 안녕.
All right, guys, thanks for being here. Someone keep talking other than Scott, honestly. So we can get ourselves set up. That'd be great.
So mean.
Yeah, Lactoid, how you been? I enjoyed playing some D&D with you on Saturday. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. Look, I don't think I'm very good at it. I'll be honest with you. But
it was a weird experience. I think that like I love Beckett, to be very clear with you, but I don't know. It was just, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's something in the air or something. It just wasn't his best showing. It wasn't my best showing, so I don't know.
Sure. It was an interesting first go at D&D. I'll leave it at that.
Boys, I don't know if it's the nap I had or the.
I almost fought you guys.
Extreme coffee, but like I'm
looking
I'm
back
feeling
and
happy
I
and
wish I
pumped
sort of
tonight.
did. I just kind of wanted to see. Maybe would have killed you all, and that would have been like a
Possible.
surprise.
You could have gone down. Gone down in history, right?
Yeah.
No, but it's good to see you, buddy.
Well, fucking
Yeah, dude. Always good to see you awake.
that
We got a
that
really
socialist
solid panel, I
OnlyFans people.
A lot of people. Prime. Did a lot of people back out of this one? Because I saw a lot of people like get added and then they left.
Yeah. I mean, that was me removing them, but they, had to do other things. It just was a tough one to fill in. I came up with my topic a lot earlier than I usually do, and I sent out the invites, but this was actually much tougher to fill than it usually is. I was trying to get a lot of some new faces in, but it just didn't work out at all. But I'm happy for the faces that I do have, so I appreciate you guys.
I just want to say this, all right, as the resident right winger here, even though I'm not a right winger. Look, if you are a streamer and you agree to do a fucking panel, all right, you let your kids die, all right. You don't go to the hospital to see the birth of your child. All right. I don't care what it is that you're doing. You made a goddamn commitment. You get your ass in here and you fucking get on the panel. All right. If nothing else, you don't got to stream it. All right. You can give Prime Cayes the viewers from your audience. You can put out an announcement in the Discord to let everybody know you're just there for the panel. Get your ass there in the seat, all right?
Yeah.
How
You know
fucking
what?
dare you?
As always, right? I'm with Fabian up to a point, and he just goes over the cliff, right? Like he just keeps on going, where I can no longer associate.
That's
like,
right.
"What?
That's
It's
right,
gonna
Wick.
keep
One of us
moving."
has balls.
But
Wait,
sometimes, yo, gang, I'm gonna tell you right now. If the people I'm with, if they get sick and they go hospital, sorry, deuces, I'm out, right? But you know, if I'm just not feeling it today. No, that's bullshit. You come
My bad.
You be here. You fucking tough it out.
Yeah,
I don't
I
get
want to.
this
I want to
debate.
actually. I do want to agree with Scott a little bit, right? Like, look, you know, I guess it's been ingrained in me from just like, you know, judges being terrifying, right? But if you got to go to somewhere, like, you show up, otherwise the hammer comes down, and you get in a lot of trouble. So
You do realize there's like I feel like there's times when like this rule doesn't work out. Like if you were going through some shit, like I feel like you've got the freedom to be like, yeah, I'm going through some shit. It's not gonna happen tonight.
so
As much
Or-
as I wanted to this morning.
Or Sprouticus, it's a fucking joke. And I don't think if your child's dying, you should prioritize the stream.
I'm not saying
All right?
child dying.
Hey, this
but
is
what I
the
am
joke.
saying
This is the joke, Sprouticus.
Wait,
I understand.
Fun fact though. So, for at least in my state, in most states, for court, if you're an attorney, like a family member dying is not a valid excuse for missing court. So quite literally, if your child is dying, you don't show up to like a hearing, you can still get disciplined. by the state
But
bar.
those rules, right, are written by other judges and lawyers and like lawyers in government, right? And as we know, lawyers are constantly fucking other women and cheating on their wives, right? So like it's not a big deal to them.
Not
Like,
me.
you know what I mean? Like it's not a very big deal if you miss out on one of your families having an issue. Like, come on.
True. No, true. You know, I would like to think. I would here. Look, with exception to me, because I'm a good person, right? But a lot of the stereotypes that you're espousing are true amongst a lot of lawyers.
Cops and lawyers love cheating on their wives, man. Like that's just
Yeah.
what it is.
No, it's true, and you know, I can't tell. I think of all the firms I know, at least more than half, or maybe even more than 75% of all the attorneys in those firms are like on their second or third wife, and there was definitely some infidelity involved there. It's not.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of hyper type A wealthy
Prime.
dudes.
Oh,
Of course they're gonna fucking cheat.
I don't have any video. Prime
Do
will
the women lawyers
fire
cheat?
streamers, yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
click on the stream right line?
They do.
Yes.
We're waiting on
Yeah.
Prime
So
to actually
the women lawyers are.
I-
even
I-
worse.
Hold on, before you continue, I want to hear what you have to say, Lactoid. Tiberius, what's wrong?
People were asking me like, "Hey, where's the video on our end?" And I'm just like, we're waiting on Prime to activate StreamYard."
What do you mean activate StreamYard?
He's
We're all in
activated
here.
it.
What?
I,
There's no
I've got
activation of
I've got
StreamYard.
nothing coming through StreamYard right now.
Well, look, we are in it.
Let me try
Did you click
restarting
the
it.
link?
I've got one. Let me see if I've got it raw, or excuse me, let me see if I've got the wrong link.
It's in the group DM. Right? It's in-
Yeah. All right. I was wondering, like, is something wrong here? Because, like, I should have gotten in by now, but, Hey, okay, that's why. I've got something fucked up.
okay.
Okay.
No problem. Sorry, Lactoid. Tell us about the female lawyers, please.
Okay, so it's true. Scott's completely right that most attorneys are like hyper type A personalities. I think this is generally true amongst almost business people too. But I'll try not to be sexist because that's wrong. But
Or based.
like take
True.
that.
But is
type-
it true?
Well, it is true. Take that type A personality and throw on like a insecurity and a need to prove that you're a type A personality, and put that in a courtroom setting. It's something else, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it's not even just that, like, right? Because like the woman in a law firm trying to climb that ladder also has to prove that she's one of the boys and not like because if she's too type A, then they'll just brand her as like, oh, you're a bitch. And it's like, even though she's engaging in the same behavior that like all of the men in the law firm would. So you have to like prove you're one of the boys, which means like, you know, networking and like drinking with the guys and like hanging out with those people and like things of that nature. And, you know, what do you think that leads to?
Well, at least among partners, there is like, I would say both men and women, like the type of personality to get to that level, or I guess maybe the type of personality you get when you get to that level, like you are a bitch regardless of your gender, right?
Yeah,
That's
right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Like you have to be like lawyers, I think is a profession with the, like if you look at it from a 5-trait personality matrix, like the big 5, right? Agreeableness is like low agreeableness. It's like the largest, it's the largest, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. If you group it by profession, like on a scale of like who has the lowest level of agreeableness, it's lawyers.
Oh, makes sense. And I think I don't think it's the highest among all professions, but the highest among white collar professions for alcoholism. So that's fun.
Zonia, I'm not sure if you're there, but thank you for resubbing for 15 months. Awfully kind of you. Thank you, Zonia, for being super cool to the channel and to me. Zonia's an absolute fantastic individual. So thank you, Zonia Dead, for being around. And I hope you have, you know, it works out whatever you're doing on your server. Okay. So we're all here. It was a bitch to put this thing together, but we are here. And I do appreciate everyone who stopped by. So welcome to Every Roundtable, which we have Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got a great group of individuals here. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. Super chat's always appreciated, that kind of stuff. Let's say hello to our friend Wick. Wick here. Oh God. Wick of the false advertising. Wick, thanks for being around, buddy.
No, thanks for having me. Look, this is I don't give myself titles. These are titles that are given to me. And last week on Prime Cayes Reverie, in fact, I was crowned the most reasonable leftist, and I just have to advertise that and go with it because, gosh dang it, it's just true, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. So thanks for having me on, Prime. Thanks for putting up with my wishy-washiness.
What kind of music do you guys want? You guys want lo-fi, or you want to stick with like the EDM? Like, what do you want?
We'll go to our friend.
You didn't notice it first, did you?
I didn't notice it before. Fanatic, who has not been getting enough sun lately, but it's okay. All right. Handsome nonetheless. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm Fanatic Liberty, also known as Fabian Liberty, in honor. We're changing our name tonight in honor for our fallen brethren, Fanatic, who was able to come and then backed out just a couple hours before. I'm doing great. We're having fun. Oh God, I recently embroiled myself in drama, which I do about once every 6 months on Twitch, unlike some Twitch streamers that do it like every other stream. Chud Logic. The LP has nominated Carolyn Borisenko as gubernatorial candidate. And so we just did a giant deep dive in what a piece of shit monster, doxer, abuser, sexual harasser that this person was. And that's been fun. I've also found out from the Twitter space and from her community that not only am I Fanatic tonight, but I'm also a democratic socialist. And she has convinced her people that I am a socialist. So tonight I will be on your side, Prime Cayes. Apparently. I don't know how it happened, but that's just what's going on. So it should be fun.
You have finally ascended. You have seen the light.
Yes. I have rejected all of my knowledge of philosophy and of economics, and I've wiped it all out, and now I've become a consequentialist with a poor understanding of econ. And these two things combined, I can now be a dim sock.
So happy to have you among our ranks. All right, a soldier for the revolution.
Comrade.
comrade. Excuse me. But I actually don't know who this person is. Could you educate me? Who is this individual?
Carolyn Borisenko got real famous for the Walk Away campaign. She was a PhD, and then she was like went to like Walk Away and went to a MAGA crowd. Then she got kicked out of Walk Away for being too toxic, and then she got kicked out of PragerU for being too toxic. But well, she was a person that like said that Hitler went to heaven. She said that Hitler went to heaven because like everyone chooses their the spirit world helps people choose the life they want to live, and like everything is predetermined. So all Jews under Nazi occupation actually chose that because they wanted to feel what it was like to be oppressed. And PragerU, Dennis Prager, the Jew, was like, oh, fucking, you can go away for that. And then got picked up by the LP. I have burned several bridges with the LP, by the way. Like, Jeremy Kaufman and I used to be somewhat talk, and I have been left on red now.
Wow. Sorry. Just shocking moments there. Wow. Okay, great. Well, anyway, I'm glad we have individual
libertarian drama, even less interesting than right-wing drama. I mean, right, boys?
Yeah. But I know you got a lot of sense there, Scott. So you don't associate with those types of people. So I'm happy to hear that. So let's go to our friend Isle. Isle is back with us. Isle, so happy to see you. Oh, thanks for being here.
As you may have noticed from my name change as well, I am not the Isle of last panel. I am actually my alter ego, Isle of Isles, and I am part of the PCNF community. I will also be representing PrimeCayes in this conversation because I have abandoned all my sense of logic and morals and human decency, and so I will now take up the PrimeCayes position. Thank you. But yeah, it's great to be here.
In case you don't know, this is a meme started by our good friend JSU Gambit. PCNF means Prime Cayes and Friends. Apparently, it's just the handle for like the worst leftists you'll find on Twitter, on anywhere else. Even though I don't associate with those people. Okay.
Prime is just a very friendly, personable guy, of course.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. Well, whatever. Thanks so much. Let's go to our friend Lactoid. Lactoid, thanks for coming back. Lactoid, a fantastic member of this community, who is telling us all kinds of stories about his profession. I really want to hear like some of your war stories, right? Like when we're off screen, because I really don't want to get you in trouble. But
Sure.
I really want to hear some of those stories.
The gasp.
They
Isle of
sound
Isle.
fascinating.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me on Prime. As always, it was a pleasure it's a pleasure to come on, and really want to thank you for inviting me. I think Hitler was evil, but according to Christian doctrine, since all you have to do is believe in Jesus Christ, technically he would be going to heaven. So I don't know if our theology is actually all that wrong on that one. But you can find me on Anti-Communism United on Discord and Twitch. And streaming. I'm trying to stream pretty consistently now. So come on, hang out. And if anybody wants to talk about anything, just hit me up.
Lactoid, embrace Catholicism and or Orthodox. Hitler killed himself. He's in hell.
That's a good.
That's a good argument, right?
That's
You know
a good
what I'm
argument.
saying?
Yeah, that's a good argument. Damn, yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, next we have our friend Sprouticus back with us, right?
What's up?
Sprouticus, thank you for coming through. Sprouticus is always a fun guy to have around, so thanks for stopping by.
Hey, not a problem. I'm the Sprouticus. You can find me at Twitch and Twitter underneath the same name, the Sprouticus. I am the first leader of the Wildcard Party for the United States of America. It's the next up and coming party. So look forward to seeing you. Look forward to the conversation, and let's see what happens.
Okay. Next we have our friend Tiberius. Tiberius is back with us. Tiberius, happy to have you here. How you doing, friend?
What's going on, everybody? It's good to be back here. I don't know what I'm doing here because apparently there was some kind of gimmick that I was not informed of with Prime and Friends. So thanks for leaving me out once again. Always appreciated. But yeah, if you guys don't know who I am by now, where have you been? Because I'm here, about every other week now? So I really appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully these conversations go really well, but they usually do. And Doobie, I'm loving the background. Great change. Keep it.
Speaking of, our Dark Lord and Savior Doobie is here. Doobie, competing with Sprouticus for the most patriotic individual on the panel, right? And like his background is utterly complete, right? Utterly American. So I'm guessing he wins that fight. I'm sorry, Sprouticus. You lost that. And Lactoid too. Okay, all right.
Lactoid's flag is covered in piss. So
I got a black background because I'm black.
It's tea stained. It's tea. It's
yeah.
what
I
the
got-
Amazon description said.
I got a black background because I'm just black pilled on America KKK. All right, in solidarity with my comrade.
you really are a
PrimeCayes.
fucking dem sock. Sock dem, whatever it is.
But Doobie, since you've
I'm memeing on
pissed
this shit,
off
boys.
your rivals, Doobie, could you please, yeah, how are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. It was my birthday 2 days ago, and I'm old. So yeah, thank you for having me. Be 30.
Old as fuck. Don't forget, please.
Fuck you.
Well, we
birthday.
appreciate you. Yeah, happy birthday to our friend Doobie. We gave him
Thank
the
you.
song
Happy
the other
birthday.
day, but
It's really
yeah,
awkward.
it has to be. It always has to be. Look, we've sung you a happy birthday previously, right? Yeah. I
fucking
think we did
weird.
that on a few people. We got to let you guys know that you're loved here, right? You're loved and appreciated. Seriously, all of you, every single one of you. All right. So let's jump into it. First topic, which I never have on screen. First topic: James Franco has been cast as Fidel Castro in an upcoming film. This was immediately protested by John Leguizamo because Franco isn't Latin. He argues that Hollywood is stealing the narratives of minorities and appropriating them. Do you think that this is an actual problem? Should an accomplished actor like Franco be passed up for this role? And what would it make a difference if Franco had the wrong skin color? So yeah, super interested to talk about this. We haven't talked about representation. Sprouticus, we got some background noise from you, buddy.
Sorry, my bad.
No problem. We haven't had this conversation in a while, and it's always fun. It's always calm. And people listen to each other's points here, so I'm very excited about it. But yeah, it's a conversation about, like, does it make a difference as long as a person can make a good performance, right? And it's reasonably convincing, like what what their background is. So let's dig into that. We'll start with our friend Wick, please.
So this is odd to me, okay? Are we only going to let German citizens play Hitler? Like, is that a thing? Like, are we really like going to take these roles and just pigeonhole who can and cannot based on identity markers? No, I think that's a little weird, right? Now, obviously, if you are doing a historical piece, you want someone who can look the part, right? But makeup can do wild and amazing things these days, right? And so I think that when it comes to representation, it's important. But what we need is good actors playing roles and representing historical figures well and playing them well. So I think that this isn't a problem. If they want James Franco to play Fidel Castro, that's okay. If he had a different skin color, you know what? That'd be okay too, right? Yeah, that's my take.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go to our friend Fabian Liberty, please. Scott, excuse me.
Yeah, so I'm basically going to say what Wick said, but a lot farther. First of all, fuck John Leguizamo. All right, just fuck him. He's engaging in this bullshit identity politics, and I could go into more of that, but like I want to term this idea of representation of the Hispanic and Latinx community, in honor of being, a DemSoc. I want to call it sombrero capitalism, right? The idea that like a certain percentage of individuals need to be present for it to somehow be true representation is fucking stupid. First of all, Elena Fernandez gave her blessing. Right? This is the person the movie is about. This is Castro's daughter. Second of all, a majority of the cast is Hispanic. It's not like it's just a ton of white people, which, obviously Cubans can be white or Afro-Cuban, which complicates this issue even more. But it's not like just like a bunch of like British people are playing Cubans, right? It's one person, it's James Franco. And if you look at the motherfucker, he looks like Fidel. Like it's a perfect fucking role for him. But the biggest thing that I want to state is there's this idea that I think that the left believes representation matters and the right is like, no, none of that matters. And I think I want to bridge the gap because I do think representation matters. But I think that representation, the way that Hollywood has been selling it, is about percentages and numbers, like it's a corporation trying to sell you on the idea that they care. Representation is about empathy. It's about feeling a story. It's about telling stories that are a part of our culture or other cultures. And so if the story gets told well and it's true to how many people innately feel, then that's important representation. And so I think a great example of this is Love, Simon, right? Love, Simon is basically just a teenage heartthrob, coming of age love story, except it's about, a secret admirer, and it's a gay story. It's about a boy searching for a boy that trying to figure out who his secret admirer is. And the director of Love, Simon talked about this, and he said that he always felt like there was literally no representation for him. But worse than that, he knew that he was a part of a community, but he couldn't join that community until he was an adult. Like he understood that he was a part of a group, and it wasn't until he was able to escape from his home and his parents that he was ever even able to join that group. And so it was really meaningful to a ton of people to see like a regular film tell a love story that they can kind of like identify with. That's a story. That's a narrative. That's empathy. That brings people that might disagree with you, and it brings stories about like everybody in America or in our culture together. The idea that someone needs to have the right skin color to tell a story is racism and critical theory. It's ideological bullshit, and it's not what people want, and it's not what people deserve. And so I will actually say that representation does matter, and that John Leguizamo is engaging in political bullshit, and he should shut the fuck up and sit down with his racist ass. And he should let James Franco, who looks just like Fidel, fucking play Fidel.
Thank you so much. All right, Isle.
This John Leguizamo is coming off as a very bitter understudy, sniping at the heels of his, better actor. And I think that
John Leguizamo is so established.
Very confident saying that, and that's why I'm saying it twice. John Leguizamo is coming off like a bitter understudy, sniping at the heels of his better actor. He's causing drama, trying to get John Franco to get down, because I'm pretty sure he thinks that he'll have a shot, but he doesn't deserve that shot. Franco can do the role. I don't, I'm of two minds of this really, because, there are some things that I think are like really bad, like, like when people in woke corporations try and like put people in there just for the sake of diversity, like having,
I wrote that shit out phonetically.
For
don't
no
even
reason other than that they just wanted to do that.
Don't even tell me I'm saying it wrong.
I also believe in
I wrote it out
meritocracy.
phonetically.
So if the best
Get it right.
person for the role is, earns the role fairly and squarely, I think they should have the role. I mean, Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell played the role of Makoto
I didn't say it wrong.
pretty well. I thought she was pretty handily in that. And so I think that, it can work. I mean, I think the movie itself, the writing was not the best, and so I think that was where it failed. I don't think it was Scarlett Johansson's portrayal of the character. Um, so I think that James Franco can play Fidel Castro if he is the best actor, and apparently he has, from what Fabian says, he just has like a very similar look in his natural demeanor to Fidel Castro, and he can probably play the role off with enough direction. So I think it's gonna work. And that's
Leguizamo.
Thank you so much. Let's go to our friend Tiberius.
I wrote it out phonetically.
Scott
and
actually
said
hit
that.
about 60-70% of what I wanted to say, so I'll separate a few things out and I'll hammer on those. Number one, excuse me, what you guys call cultural appropriation is pretty fucking based, actually. Bringing other cultures' ideas and stories into your own and metabolizing them into
Remember the Alamo, John. Remember the Alamo.
And the people who think that's a bad thing can fuck right
I might
off.
have to steal it.
Second, Franco's a decent actor. I'd probably put him like B+, A- tier. So, like, I don't think he's incompetent to the point where he cannot portray the role. And I do agree that, he does kind of look, close enough to Franco that he can probably play it. Stories just matter. I think Scott made that very well. So the final note is this: if Franco can't play the role, then bitch. The fact that he's been cast in it, he's competent, he can give the story life and meaning. Just bitch if he fucks it up. Like, why are we having this conversation ahead of time? And I'm not saying like it's not worthy. What I'm more saying is that if this is the things that people have to bitch about, I question where your priorities are. So I'll end with that.
Thank you so much. Okay. Let's go to our friend Lacto. I might have to fight the looks like I'll have to fight the entire panel. All my lefties dropped out. So don't worry. All right. As the head of the PC Enough community, I'm more than capable of taking you all on. But Lactoid, please.
Sure. Movies are art, and the director is the artist as regards painting the plot. Ultimately, the director should be making the creative decisions on who should be cast. That's their right. However, personally, I want people to play roles if they fulfill two categories. One, they're talented actors, and two, they don't break continuity and immersion. I do have issues with traditionally white superheroes or traditionally white characters being played by minorities and vice versa. Not because they're not talented, but because it breaks continuity and immersion. My favorite TV show is The Wire. If Avon Barksdale suddenly becomes a white guy in season 3, it would ruin the entire show for me, even if that white actor is an A-list actor, because it not only breaks continuity, but the culture expressed by Avon Barksdale is clearly that of a black dialect. If they cast Ryan Reynolds as the new Black Panther to replace Chadwick Boseman, I wouldn't want to watch that movie because it breaks continuity and immersion for the viewers. Same if they made a black Superman or a black Batman or a black Batgirl. I wouldn't want to watch it, and I think absent the woke community, most other people wouldn't want to either. In this way, there could be some validity to John Leguizamo's opinion if it weren't for the fact that James Franco looks stunningly similar to Fidel Castro, far more than John does. Hispanics in the U.S. can be considered white for a reason. People from Spain are white, and Latin America was extensively colonized by Spain. This is why it is Latin America. The Spanish colonization was far more brutal than the English colonization. Plenty of Latinos are white colonizers. Plenty of Cubans are white, as Cuba was colonized by Spain. Fidel Castro is either white or white passing, although because race isn't real, I don't recognize a difference. For all intents and purposes, anyone who is white passing is white, so Fidel Castro is white, just as Franco is white, so I have no issue with him playing Castro for any reason.
I love how our friend Lactoid actually writes these things down. He reads this from a script. He prepares this. And so of course Scott does as well. Okay, all right. So it's like
listen, my script is all up here. My script is all up here.
Yeah, they sit down, they write this out. They're like, oh no, this looks good. This checks out. All right. Thanks so much.
Clearly, he did not write it well enough because he said that he would have a problem breaking the fourth wall with a black Batwoman. Are you saying that black women can't be billionaires, Lactoid?
Oh boy,
because that's racist.
I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't even thought about the Batwoman thing. We could talk about that too. I even though I read 5 articles about that today, it didn't.
Channeling my dim sock. Sorry, it just comes out.
There's a reason it was canceled. I'm just saying.
Ah,
Just
okay.
silencing
Okay.
women's voices. That's what you're doing,
That's-
Prime. Notice there are no
Oh.
women on this panel. That's all I'm saying.
Fucking wait. All right, Sprouticus, please save us. All right.
Listen, when I go to the movies, I go to be entertained. That is why I'm at the movies. I'm there to be entertained by a movie that's being shown on screen. When I play a movie, I'm sitting down on the couch to be entertained. And that is the most important part of the movie. The movie has to be entertaining first and foremost. I never go to a movie and decide to sit down and be like, you know what? I'm here for this movie to try and purity test this. No one in their right mind that isn't terminally online goes to movies to try and purity test the movie. No, I'm there to be entertained. So if the director of the movie decides that, yeah, I do want this person to play this role because they think they're going to do very well, they think they're going to be entertaining in this role, then yes, I think that they should be able to play that role. If they're not entertaining, the movie will suffer the repercussions of the actor not being entertaining. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, is the entertainment value of the actor and of the script.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Last but not least, Doobie. Goddamn, Doobie, please tell us where you're on this.
So I think it's really interesting. I think Lactoid said earlier, right? Like Hispanics are like white passing, or they might be white. They might just be white. And I think for a lot of people on the left, that is literally how it's treated. Right? If you're not black, you're a white person. You might even be like a white passing Asian dude, right? Who looks fucking Chinese, but you're white passing because you're not like a criminal or something. I think this is how like a lot of lefties are treating this, like the race topic, and I think that's what you guys are doing right now, right? So I think if we were to take someone like MLK and applied all the arguments that you baboons just made toward him, right, toward that person in history, like, oh, I just want someone who can play the role and somebody who can, it doesn't matter, it's the vision of the director that matters, etc. I don't care about the race at all. If you care about the race, you're a racist, and etc. Like, none of you would buy that shit, right? Obviously, right? I think there's something to be said for lefties and apparently right-wingers who are just so colorblind, they do racist shit, totally dismissing or discounting the importance of race in certain topics, in certain contexts. And I think in this context, it's important because this is a Cuban story about Cuban people. Why the fuck would you stick a white guy in there? A white guy who, by the way, like 4 or 5 years ago, was caught trying to groom a 17-year-old when he was in his late 30s, right? Who has like over a decade of sexual like harassment allegations at him. Like, why the fuck would you stick that guy in the role? There are plenty of Hispanic actors in Hollywood that you could stick in that role who look much more like Fidel Castro without any fucking makeup, right? You can just stick out a scruffy beard on these dudes and holy shit, it's Fidel Castro, because apparently all these people look the same to you guys, right? So like, I don't know. This seems like cope. I don't think you guys would buy these arguments here if you're making them toward like any black historical figure. And given that's the case, I don't believe that the race doesn't matter to you.
So I have a question for you.
No, before you do, because I'm not gonna leave my man Doobie hanging. I'm gonna be fighting alongside with them. Okay, so I have lots of thoughts on this.
Ooh, Doobie
I
has
think
joined the
it's
PC enough
interesting.
community.
I think it's interesting that this message is coming from John Leguizamo. If we don't forget, who's Hispanic, but if we don't forget that he rose to fame as Luigi and the Super Mario Brothers, right? Playing an Italian stereotype. So I think it's fascinating
Is he
that
Cuban?
he's the one. Yeah, no, I think he's Colombian. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think Colombian. Born in
You forgot
Bogota,
the other. You forgot the other time, which is where he played as a homosexual drag queen.
wait a minute, hon. I think I remember that. I think
Yeah.
I vaguely remember
Yeah.
that.
So is his two big like entries into Hollywood were him fucking LARPing as other ethnicities and sexualities.
Well,
Okay,
I think you
yeah,
guys are
so-
massively downplaying what this man did in his career. He didn't rise to fame through the fucking Mario movie. In fact, he said that is one of his biggest mistakes ever. Right? He said that like repeatedly in interviews. Right? So he rose to fame as a comedian, right? And moves like The Pest, and there are like a ton of other ones that he was in. So like, come on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll finish my thoughts then. I think that I take the opposite stand from most of you. Representation absolutely does matter. It does matter to get those actors into the door, right? Like you can say that, yeah, well, this other person might be able to put a great performance. And I think James Franco, I think, is a really good actor. And I think he could probably do a fantastic performance for this. But that doesn't mean that other people, one, can't, right? If you look for them, you look for that talent, you'll find maybe new talent, possibly better talent, and people who could bring something to the table that these other actors cannot. Like, there's little details when people are from that culture that they can incorporate that a person otherwise might not be able to, right? I am not of the Latin community. I don't know Latin culture, but I could read a script. If you put a script in front of me, I'm not a good actor, but like, you could put a script in front of me, I can read that script, but I'm not going to add any flourishes that other Latin individuals will pick up on. Yeah, well, hey, yeah, that makes sense. That happens in my life, right? That's how they act. Or sometimes, because
PrimeCayes, that's why they
good
picked
actor.
James Franco. Because
let me-
James Franco is a degenerate piece of shit that abuses people, just like Fidel Castro. And he can bring that little bits and pieces from him into his role in a way that the average Cuban just can't.
That there is that,
And besides,
too. But hold on, guys, let me finish.
and it's also like
Let me finish. Okay, right? I'll be done soon. So anyway, that's the thing that happens, right? And we've seen this in many areas where we have these actors who are white trying to do roles in other communities and like falling flat, or even worse than that, like not just neutral, just like doing a huge disservice. It's a thing that happens, right? I think it's fair to say, well, like, it doesn't make sense to have like only Germans playing like German roles or something like that. I hear you, but it matters because there are minorities who have traditionally have been locked out of Hollywood, been locked out of these roles. They can't get in, right? These people are having trouble getting their first step, so they can have their hit, right? So they can have that long career, right? When you let these people in, then they have the option, they have the ability to get higher salaries later on, right? The more films they get, the more higher salaries that open up for them. So that balances out pay disparities, but it also allows them to bring in more people as well, right? Because you bring in the people you know, and most like white people know white people, right? Black people know a lot of black people. So if we're opening the doors to these individuals, it has a multiplying effect. A multiplying effect if you just have white people on here, right, and just occasionally bring in minorities, and a multiplying effect if you do the opposite. You try to get some diversity. So I think it's very important.
I want to touch
so
on something
I
really
just wanna
important.
Push back real
Okay, go ahead,
quick,
Ray.
on this, if I may, real quick. Like, look, I get that it should be a factor, right? It should be a factor because of all the things you said, that representation matters, that these people need to have a chance to get into this industry. But we're talking about a very specific situation, right? And it cannot be the deciding factor. When you go for a role, the sole deciding factor cannot be if you are exactly the same identity and you line up on all the...
Yeah, so long as the actor's a really good actor, you
can
could have a white MLK movie. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I mean, if you can have a Black Hamilton movie, why couldn't you?
Okay, so your Wick is okay with the white.
No, why
MLK
couldn't you? If
movie,
an artist
that'd be like
wanted
a
to
reason
do
to
that,
I am.
I'm being very serious right now.
Wait,
If an
that's a
artist
good
wanted
point.
to do that, if an artist wanted to explore, like, what if, right? What if this was a race reversal thing?
No, not
Why
a race
couldn't
reversal.
they?
Just MLK's a white guy now. He's not black anymore.
What if he was
Yeah, why
black
couldn't they?
passing?
No, they could.
That's what
They
Hamilton was
could,
about.
but I think a lot of people would
that's what Hamilton was. They
justifiably
were
be really
rapping
So
upset
if a black
about this iconic black
director
icon being turned into another white dude.
wanted to cast a white dude, and he was like, "Wow, this white dude, I'm a black guy, and this white dude plays MLK great, and I want to cast him." You're going to say, "No, you can't do that."
Doobie,
I'm
how
not
do you
saying it should be
Doobie?
illegal? Hold on, to be clear. I'm not saying it should be illegal. I'm saying it's really fucking stupid, and we need to consider the cultural and social context in which these movies are being made.
Doobie.
Right? So if you are a dude who's going
Like
to put forward
Hamilton.
a Hollywood production of a black MLK movie, right? I'm sorry, of a white MLK movie, right? Where rather than being like this black icon with his past, etc., with his family, his religion. He's a white guy now, and maybe he works at a car dealership. Just change him.
And
entirely.
you're
Doobie,
changing everything.
Doobie.
At that point, you're changing.
But it doesn't matter, right?
everything.
Okay,
It does
Doobie.
Hold on.
Doobie.
You think that is
Oh,
No.
let him finish.
trying
Let him finish.
to make
Do
it
you think that is?
historically
You think that his race is
Oh,
less?
guys. Let Doobie finish, right? Then we're gonna go to Ty. We're going to Scott.
It's
and
just
then
one
Ty.
quick question. One quick question
Oh,
for
yeah.
Doobie. How would you feel about Sean King playing MLK?
Okay, then Ty.
John Keen
and
is
then-
white, by the way.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say he's white. Apparently, he's black.
What if
All right?
Rachel?
What-
What if
don't
Rachel
you think?
Dolezal
What do you
played
feel about
MLK?
Sean King playing
Rachel
MLK?
Dolezal is also white. Okay, these are white people.
Wow.
Okay, all right.
Transphobic.
Okay, Ty, you want to say something?
I do. We talked about this on Mask Off, shameless plug, about a week ago, and we came to some really interesting conclusions because basically, in a nutshell, is that some roles translate very well. Sometimes you get colorism.
We
where
came
it's just
to a
like this person looks
conclusion.
a little too much
No, you
like this
didn't.
person, but identifies as an opposite race, whether it's like mixed or white or what have you. I'm not going to get into that particular detail, but I want to put it in the context of what we kind of agreed on. Spider-Man, interesting character, right? In that perverted role is that we have seen that jump raise from Peter Parker to Miles Morales, and it's fucking great. Like Into the Spider-Verse was a great story. And then you have some others that really don't land very well. There is a Black Thor now, and it's just fucking weird, and it doesn't translate at all. On the same time as that, could you all imagine White Static Shock? Like, how do you make that work?
Hold on, the white Spider-Man isn't Peter Parker. I'm sorry, the black Spider-Man isn't Peter Parker. It's Miles Morales. It's an entirely different character, either usually from another universe or from the same universe, and somebody who became like an understudy of Peter Parker. So they didn't just race swap Peter Parker one day. They actually created a character, fully fleshed out character who's black, right? Who's like
Why couldn't they make a new character?
What if someone?
Who, by the way, has different.
MLK character?
He also has different powers,
What if
right?
someone? What if someone wanted to use wanted to make an alternate universe where MLK was white? Like, what if there's all these alternate versions of history that are becoming movies to where it's like, what if this happened? What if that happened? And Doobie, you're trying to make your argument stand on its feet by saying that, oh, okay, now MLK is just a guy who works. He's a salesman at a dealership. Like, you're trying to make it stand on its feet by ripping away everything about MLK and be like, oh, it's okay because he's just a salesman. He goes to church, he prays. Like, this is like.
That
No,
more
so-
so
so-
trying to make it stand on its
feet.
whether or not within his fucking job, whether he worked at a car dealership or not.
So
Why would that matter except for you trying to make it stand on its feet by trying to rip away everything everything out of the story?
Why does MLK's race matter?
But hold on. Okay, so I think
Well,
no,
no,
there
his
is
job.
a
His
kernel
job
of
is
a
not
point
tied
here.
to his race. He can be a white
go to-
minister.
We'll go to Electoid and then Scott. I see you. All right. And I'll you want to say something else? We'll do that too. But I think there is.
I gave up
you're
my
touching
ability
on
to be able to
something.
make any
Talking
points
about
because I
artistic
asked
freedom,
one
right?
Mimi
So,
question.
in
God
the
damn it.
case of a white MLK, I think there. I can consider. I can conceive of a
I
film,
make a
right?
great white
Where-
MLK, by the way.
I can conceive of a film where you swap the races of everyone, right? Like the entire.
If I play MLK, does that mean I get to fuck a bunch of women and cheat on my wife? Because that'll
oh
be
my
dope.
God. You swap the races of everyone in the civil rights movement, right? Like the people who are oppressed, right? Like black people, like running the country and oppressing white individuals, right? And then that could be like a powerful movie from like an artistic perspective, right? Like I'm trying to state something here, trying to show you something by doing this, like showing like little white children being chased by police dogs, right? Like there's something there. I hear you, right? But I don't think
will they be
necessarily-
Rottweilers and pit bulls
Oh my God!
instead
I
of
don't
German
think that-
shepherds?
Oh my God! I don't think that's what's happening here, though, right? Like, is anyone arguing that it's an artistic decision here? That's all that it is? Or
Yeah,
are they
Larry.
just, like,
Larry,
taking
I will
a big name
totally
actor?
donate money to
It'd be more
them
like-
if
it'd be
you
more
give
like
me
if they
some
made
subs.
an MLK movie with a white actor and they gave him like the Robert Downey Jr. treatment and put him in blackface, right? Because his race isn't changing in the story. He's still a black guy, right?
Yeah.
But hey, the actor's white, so we're gonna make him look black.
Look,
Let's go to Lactoid.
Blackface was the
Scott,
point of his
and then
character,
Isle.
though.
Well, so Doobie, you started off by saying
Yeah,
that
I
you're
understand
going
that, Scott.
to disagree with the whole panel, but in my opening, I said a lot of these things, right? Like I think it'd be patently, although sure, artistic, freedom, the director should be able to if he wants to. but I think it's ridiculous if they recast Black Panther as, Ryan Reynolds or like some like very cheesy white dude. Like, can you imagine like Owen Wilson like playing Black Panther? It just wouldn't work. I wouldn't want to watch that movie because that's not who Black Panther is, right? If we're being honest. So I mean, I agree with that. As long as you don't break the immersion, like I think it's fair game. And
Yeah, so it's fine.
this
if
dude
he's
looks
aged
just
into
like Fidel
blackface.
Castro.
No, he doesn't.
It's scary. Yeah, it's scary.
Okay, there's more to looking like Fidel Castro than having a scruffy beard. Okay. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not a scruffy beard. Like his
It is a scruffy
facial
beard. He
features.
doesn't have
Look.
the same facial features at all. At all.
Oh yeah.
Do they have to? What if you had a Cuban national, right, who wanted to play, but they didn't like have the same facial features? Would it no longer be okay to cast them in Fidel Castro's role?
I think you can get close without being like insane, right? Like, but even then, if for some of these films where they do this kind of shit, like they did this for Prince of Persia, right, where they cast an all-white cast basically, and they were supposed to be like Arabians or like Middle Easterners or some shit, right?
By the census,
and they just put them but they weren't white in the movie. They just
But
made
we're
them
not
tan.
talking about an entire cast. We're talking about
Stop,
one
Stop.
individual.
So they just made them tan, right? And now it's suddenly we're supposed to believe that these people are all in the Middle East, but they're actually just white actors who are like tan. So if they did some shit like that, right? And that's probably what they're gonna end up doing because he's very white. Like James Franco is like not like a Hispanic passing person at all, right? So they might need to darken his skin a little bit, right, to make him fit the role. So
My
I don't think it makes
question
sense.
is why do you care so much? I guess this
Can
is
I
my
respond
question.
to
Why
that
do you wait 1 second? Why do you care so much about skin color? Literally, Dibby, why do you? It seems to me that is your biggest beef is that this person had changed their skin color to take on this role.
I
Okay,
understand
so
you're
say
a
they
white
didn't
devil and
have
you've
to
never
take
had to
on-
worry about skin color in your entire life, right? But the reality is, in some contexts, skin color does matter. It is important. In this context,
Okay,
it's
I
important.
understand
In
that.
the MLK movie,
But
it would be important.
I'm not suggesting
Castro's
that
fucking
I'm
white.
not
Like, what are
suggesting
we
that a
talking
black
about?
person can't play a white role. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting the movie should be entertaining. And if the movie's not entertaining, then the director is going to take the fall from the movie. So it's on the director to make the movie entertaining, to get people to go out and watch it.
Who cares about that? Nobody's talking about whether or not to be a good movie or a bad movie. We're talking about their representation in the movie.
I have a quick question. One final question based on your response. Let's say they do. So you can go look at pictures of Fidel Castro. He's not brown. Like, he is very pale. Like, a lot of people in South America and the Caribbean are like white. They just, because obviously the Spaniards are white and Spaniards came over. It's kind of funny. Just because you hear a Spanish accent doesn't mean like that's a person of color. It's not true. Everybody in Spain is white, right? It's a European country that colonized large areas of the Americas. If they cast James Franco and they don't need to like darken his skin or anything, they just like put like a beard on him and then he goes out and he plays an amazing Fidel Castro. Like he does the script perfectly. He has the accent down. Like he really plays it up. Like, Doobie, are you gonna have any concerns at that point?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
Because again, the issue isn't just the skin color. It isn't just that they're sticking James Franco, who's a groomer, in a fucking sex
It's irrelevant to this.
It's not just that, right? The issue is that hey, they have a role that is the location of Cuba, the Cuban people. The story is very what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of weight to this, right? It's not just some random ass story about like another fairy tale or whatever the fuck. There's historical context to this. There's people in our country who want these stories told, right? From Fidel's side and from the other side, they want to hear these stories. And when you tell these stories that are historically just like undertold, and you stick a white dude in the role, right? Totally ignoring that Hollywood is full of Hispanic actors that could fill the role much better than James Franco without all the baggage that he comes with, that actually look like Fidel Castro with and without the scruffy beard, right? I think there's a problem there, and so I have a problem with it just the way that I have a problem with there being a white actor playing MLK and putting on blackface to fit the role.
Or a black Batgirl, right? You have a problem with that?
Doobie.
We gotta go. We gotta hold on. We got Scott waiting. We got Al, then you, Spartacus, and Wick.
All right. So first thing, Castro's a white guy that murdered tons of Afro-Cubans in the history of communism in Cuba. So I don't even understand this stupid fucking argument about like all of a sudden Hispanic as an ethnicity matters. Second of all, again, I want to go back to my point that the story matters. So I understand Doobie and Lactoid that like we're kind of all saying the same thing and you're sticking to different weird lines in the sand, which is that if the story is interrupted, if the narrative is unable to be told because of like this breaking of the fourth wall, it feels offensive because it's unable to represent the story. And you can do this even with race swaps. Case in point, Julie Newmar. Does anybody know who Julie Newmar is? Yeah, I didn't think so. That's the original Catwoman. Fucking white girl. White girl is the original Catwoman. Nobody gives a fuck because Halle Berry was sexy as fuck and pulled off Catwoman better than anybody else. And guess what? Catwoman is just black now. All right. Nobody gave a fuck about that race swap. And you know why? Because Halle Berry was sexy as fuck and played the role and she made it live like a fucking cat. And like, we just accepted that shit because she did the story and the story was well.
Wasn't
right?
it a terrible movie?
No,
It wasn't.
okay.
It was
the
a shit
movie,
movie, yeah.
the movie was bad. Her portrayal of the
Hold on,
role
but
was
Fucking
not.
male brain.
But-
No, but
okay, but listen.
Just kind of verify because I
But-
remember the black
but
woman.
no,
but
but
there was
no,
a black
but
woman
no,
playing
but no.
Catwoman
She was
was
I want to
sexy.
get back. I want to get back. I want to get back to something that's really important that PrimeCayes that I wanted to talk to on PrimeCayes about, because this is the racism that is so dominant in our culture against quote unquote white people. Is he openly says, no, it would be ridiculous to require Germans to play Hitler or Germans to play other German roles. But that's exactly what we're talking about here. As we're talking about Fidel Castro, a white guy, being played by another white guy, but he actually, now he needs to be from the ethnicity and have a Cuban understanding and Cuban ethnicity. But we don't care when it's white people. And this is the fucking erasure that multiculturalism has done to white people, is that we consider ourselves white.
You're going
and
off
we
the
have,
cliff again.
we have erased
He's
Polish
so right about
identity.
this.
We have released German identity. We have
Swedish.
released what it means to be French or Swedish or all of these countries. And we're no longer connected to our culture and our ethnicity because we are put in a fucking box and told, you're white people. And like, we can engage in racism so long as it's against white people. And who cares if a German plays a German role,
Yeah,
but a
then
white
why-
guy playing
why-
another white guy in
I
a
am-
Cuban role,
I am a
all of a
white
sudden that's a
guy.
problem.
Hold on.
It's just
Okay,
so
no,
wrong.
Scott, hold on.
It's
Scott, I need
so
to be super clear
Knocked
about
it out of
this.
the park just
So,
there.
okay,
And
now
you
it's
can
my
see-
turn.
no.
It's my turn.
So Scott, you're
It's
like
my
half
turn. I
right. So
think
I
I
agree
would
with
go.
half of what you said, but I wouldn't be okay with just anybody playing like a Hitler, for example. I wouldn't be okay with an Asian dude playing Hitler in
Yeah,
whiteface.
if they look
Or a
like
black
it
dude
and they
playing
can
Hitler in
portray it
whiteface.
effectively to
Wait,
tell
but
the
what you guys
story,
are
then
telling
we're
me is they
good.
don't- Okay, wait, hold on. So if,
No,
if you had like if you had a black dude like from Nigeria, like some actor from Nigeria playing Hitler, and they put him in full whiteface, you'd be totally. You don't think that'd be weird? at
No,
all?
that would break the fourth wall extremely.
Why?
Like, it would be
He's in
awkward.
whiteface, and you can't tell what race he actually is. Like, what's the issue?
If I
Oh,
can't
so
tell
you're saying he
them-
can, if I can't tell, I don't care.
They give him the white girl treatment. You know,
If
so-
if I
that
can't
movie
tell,
might be
I
cool,
don't care.
But it's a good movie. You should watch.
Like the Latino,
dude,
like the
I
like
love
the
Robert
Latino,
Downey.
like the Latino girl that's playing Snow White, right? Like, there's a reason that breaks the fourth wall because her name is literally Snow White because her skin is white as snow, right? Like, it part of her character is that she's a super
say that,
pale
that's racist.
white girl, right? Like,
I
it
also-
doesn't make
I've got-
sense.
I've got
Wait,
one
I
question.
also want to comment real
So,
quick. Real quick. So
you got
when
to say it quickly because I got to go to
Yeah.
Isle.
Wh-
And I
when
want to
I-
respond to Scott.
well,
I don't get. I get skipped.
for real quick for
No, you're
years.
not gonna get skipped. You're after Isle.
Real quick,
I was
for-
after
for-
Scott.
For years,
I was after Scott.
I thought Robert.
I
Downey
was
Jr.
supposed to be after Wick, and I made
Oh
one
my
joke
God.
and I
I
had to
was
wait.
after Scott.
All right, I'm waiting.
I thought Robert Downey Jr. was a black man for years because I saw a sign from Tropic Thunder in the movie theater, and it wasn't until Iron Man came out that I saw, and I was very confused. I was like, "Is this the
It's the most
same Robert
Swedish
Downey
thing
Jr.?
I've ever heard in my entire life.
So like people think, oh, like people aren't color. Like I guess I am really like colorblind here. Like I really couldn't tell. But I think it's interesting because like if you could play it convincing enough, yeah, I don't think you break the fourth wall. You don't break the immersion. Like I was convinced. I genuinely believed it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Isle. I'll go to Sprout. Then I'll go to Wick. Right. But I do want to reply to you, Scott. I got a lot of things to say to you as always. But please, Isle.
I'm pretty much in agreement with Lactoid. I'm like, there's a conflicting between me. There's like a
That
man.
Robert
of two
Downey Jr.
minds
is black. Is that what you're in agreement with?
No, about one of his earlier statements. One of his earlier statements that there's this struggle between meritocracy and I guess the culture war, you know, like things of that nature, I guess you could say. Whereas like you don't want people just putting people in roles that they shouldn't have, just, you know, for the specific express purpose of being woke. Like in, you know, the Lord of the Rings, then they made like one of the dwarf princesses black with a black for some reason. That made no sense apparently due to lore. And you know, that would break the lore, and it would not make sense and probably not be that good. However, I do think, you know, what Wick was saying, like, you know, if there was like a guy who a white guy who could convincingly play MLK, and he was the best actor for the job, and we can prove that he was the best actor for the job, I would say, oh, okay. I mean, we had Hamilton, which is a majority black cast, so, you know, featuring roles of like several presidents and founding fathers who were all historically and notoriously white people. So I mean, if you can make it entertaining and actually have them, you know, carry a role with such weight and gravitas that you can actually believe for a moment that, you know, Alexander Hamilton can actually rap, and like, you know, have like a decades-long beef with Aaron Burr that leads into like a rap beef gone wrong and like a shooting at the duel. Like, if you can actually believe that because they made it so good on Broadway, I can see like a white guy that kind of looks like him, like, you know, like he's
Like
black passing, he's probably mixed. Yeah, like Wick.
I think
He's
you
like,
missed
you know,
the
he's
point of Hamilton.
probably mixed. Well, you know,
Like Shaun White.
So Hamilton was intentionally cast that way, right? Because they wanted to represent America as it is now, right? Not because they're just saying, hey, you know, Hamilton's a Hispanic dude now. They were literally doing
Because
it intentionally.
SJWs are pretty
Wait,
white.
America's mostly not black.
just
Hamilton's also mostly not black.
I thought it was a mostly black
very-
cast.
no, it's a
that's
very
what
mixed
we just
cast.
said. Oh.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna count
That's
up
not-
I'm gonna count up the cast.
Many
And unless
black-
it's 13%,
Let's
I'm
go
gonna
find
pitch
the
a
black.
fit.
Okay, we'll
It's
just
gotta be
go through-
exactly 13%
Find every black
cast.
hiding in there. We'll
Yeah.
count 'em.
If there's 14% black people, I can't like boycott the whole thing. It's not accurate.
Yeah, but
So,
you know, yeah, but because Hamilton wasn't black, okay? He was a black guy.
I like that phrase, notoriously white. This is how I would describe Lactoid and Wick.
God damn.
For that.
The Swedish don't erase my identity.
I'm erasing you. Again.
So many people
Like,
say, "Are
he
you
was
from
Vikings
Switzerland?"
in here.
Oh.
Oh,
We was Vikings in here. Like I'm erasing you too, Lactoid. I'm sorry. We was Vikings. I'm an original Viking. Okay.
We were Viking. Whatever.
let's go to our friend Sprouticus and then Wick.
All right. So from what it sounds like here, it sounds like Doobie, you're willing to trade out an A-rated movie, like absolutely fantastic. Actually, let's make it S-rated, right? For a like an S-class movie, for like a C-class movie. But
It's a little bit weird
the
that
race
if
was
you're
the race was
assuming-
right. The race
A little
was
bit
right
sus
in the
that you're assuming
C-class
that
movie.
if the actor isn't a white guy, it's gonna be a bad movie. It's really fucking weird.
No, I'm not making that assumption. But
Ask
what I'm
me- hey,
saying,
if we swap out this actor
what I'm
for-
saying,
for a
what I'm
non-white person,
saying,
it's gonna be a
Doobie, what
bad movie.
I'm saying is that the director is going to pick the best actor, the one that
That's
makes
not
it
what they always
entertaining.
do.
But
It-
then they're
there's-
going to
okay,
take the fall for it
it
when
is
it
not-
comes
okay,
to when
no,
they're going
stop,
to take the
please.
fall for it when it comes
No,
to sales.
stop.
Why
Because
stop?
a lot of
I was
times,
in the
a
middle
lot
of
of
a
times,
point,
a lot of
and you're
times
trying
they
to
will
interrupt me. Now
choose
you're going no stop.
specifically, like an A-lister, right, to get the movie publicity. Right? It's like they do this all the time. Like we shouldn't assume that he's the best person for the job just because he has a fucking job.
But I'm not saying that he's the best person for the job. But what I am saying is I'm going to give you so there's an S-lister, right? There's an S-class movie if this actor plays. He's not the right race, but it's going to be an S-class movie.
Not a good
It's going to
actor.
it's going to make a statement. And then there's a C-class movie, but the race
Is
is
this a
right.
JRPG
Which one are you
phone
gonna
game?
choose?
He is the right race, by the way. He's just not the right ethnicity. He's not,
He's
the,
not
like,
the
the,
right
the
way.
right
Oh,
type
sorry,
of white.
He's not the right ethnicity.
Fidel
Okay,
Castro's
so
not
the
white.
C-class,
Yeah, I think
the C-class.
Fidel Castro
So the
was white.
C-class, the
No, he's
C-class
not.
actor is it's gonna be a C-class movie. Is the
Fidel Castro
correct
was a
ethnicity?
light-skinned Hispanic man.
Which one are you
It's
gonna
the
choose?
John Legalismo. The John Legalismo.
It's
like
John,
it's like
don't
saying that,
forget the Alamo.
They saying that like light-skinned Africans are white. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
he's okay. If you're white, hold on. If race is a social construction and you're white passing, how are you just not white?
He's still not willing to
That's
answer
not
my
how
question.
this works.
He's also
Why?
mostly
Hold on,
Spanish.
Why is that? Why is that? Hold on. Why is this not how this works?
Wait, I want to give Sprout. Sprout, I gotta be honest. I blocked out like the end of your statement because it was really tough. But maybe ask me the question, and I promise to answer directly.
Okay, so you've got two actors. One of them's gonna make an A-class movie. One is gonna make a C-class movie. These are the two remaining actors you have to choose. The one that's gonna make the A-class movie is not the correct race, ethnicity, what do you want to say? The one that's gonna make the C-class movie is the correct ethnicity, right? Or is the correct race? Which one are you going to choose based off the options you have?
Yeah, I think the fact that you need to construct this crazy fucking hypothetical to defend this
It's not a crazy hypothetical.
You're pivoting,
Hollywood
dude.
is
No, I know.
Hollywood
I've
is
been
full
arguing the entire
of struggling
time.
actors would
Pivoting.
die for this fucking
No,
role.
I'm not
okay?
pivoting.
He's
I'm
saying-
No, we're saying
None of those
dubious.
exist. We're imagining a world where if you don't hire the white guy, you're gonna have a bad movie. Would you rather not hire the
I
white
did
guy?
not say that. What
That's
I've been
basically what you're
arguing
saying.
is
Yes,
that
it
you're gonna. What I've been arguing is the director should choose the best person for the job, and you're saying
Is
no,
that
they
how-
shouldn't choose the best.
Is
person
that how
for the job.
Hollywood works? Is Hollywood
That's I'm
works
saying
is
that's
like-
how it should work.
Well, it
But-
does
but
for
it
male
doesn't-
roles.
hold on,
It works for
hold on.
male
It
roles. For female
literally-
roles, it's whoever sucks the best dick. But you know.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
What? Me Too
All right,
didn't
I got
happen?
yours.
Me Too didn't
Eric
fucking happen,
Bernstein?
Prime Cayes?
Oh my
Terry
god.
Crews-
Your mic
Terry
is
Crews
speaking
taught
like
us as a
crazy.
male problem,
Time's
too.
up.
Your mic
man.
is speaking like crazy, Scott. And that's not how Hollywood works, right? Hollywood works on who
Denying
they
Me
think
Too
is
now?
most marketable, right? Which doesn't mean they're the best actor, right? That's two different things. One, who's the most marketable, and who and it's based on connections, right? The connections that people make either through going
Like
to
physical
events,
connections?
getting. Oh my god! No need to interrupt me every goddamn second, okay? All right. It doesn't work through like, oh well, we've looked at all these actors, right? We've lined them all up, right? And then we've scientifically
Sometimes you have to
balanced,
meme,
like,
boys.
who is like the best one for this role, has all the right mix of experiences, right? To have this to make this a fantastic movie. That's never how it works, right? And we really can't even expect directors to do that. Like that would be insane to actually have them do that, because that's actually too much. If that was the case, then we wouldn't have like fucking Ezra Miller, who was playing the Flash, right? Like you could have found a better person to play that role who also doesn't like abuse people or whatever the fuck,
What?
right? Like
He's kind of
this
playing
is
the
thing that
Flash in
happens.
real life now, right? On the run.
Yeah, right. He's running. But that's not how Hollywood works. So to say that, if you don't hire the right guy, in some certain cases, you might not have the best movie. That's nonsense. You can find an actor, an amazing actor for whatever ethnicity it is, that can play that role as well, right? You just have to actually look for them. That's what we're asking. Let them in the door, and then they can become a household name. And then next time you have a role, right, a black role or whatever it is, right?
This is such
then
cope.
these individuals are there. Then you can pick them up.
This is
so
such
hold on.
cope. The film is full of Latinos.
I'm gonna.
He's like the
get back
only
to
white
you.
actor.
Don't worry, Scott. Scott, don't worry. I'm going to get back to you.
Playing
I'm
a white
gonna
guy.
Take care of you. I'm
Castro's
going to take
white.
care of you later. All right. So, Spartacus, are you done? Your point that I gotta go to Wick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not going to convince Doobie one way or the other. It's just going to, obviously it's just going to, he's going to bring up the farthest, which he already has. He's going to bring up the farthest, which he already has in chat, saying that Black Panther should be played by Tom Cruise, and going that far, which is not what I'm saying whatsoever. Tom Cruise is not going to be the best person to play Black Panther.
Black Panther's too far for you. What the
Tom
fuck are you
Cruise is
talking
not
about?
going to be the best person to play Black Panther.
Why not? He's a great actor.
Because Tom Cruise does not play Black Panther. Like
Why?
it's a
he
complete.
plays. He's an action star.
I understand that he's an. I understand he's an action star, but
Why
look at
wouldn't
the
he be
difference.
great at Black Panther?
Look at the difference between the two movies. Watch Top Gun and watch Black Panther. It's not
Top
the same
Gun?
acting skills.
Tom Cruise has been in fucking dozens of action films. They're not all Top Gun.
Oh my
okay?
gosh, you're right. And
There's
you
no
would have said
reason.
that no matter which
There's
Tom
no
Cruise
reason,
movie
and
I
he's an
chose.
accomplished actor. He's been in the industry for decades. There's no reason you couldn't replace him replace Chadwick Boseman with him.
You need to make him
So
look.
if
You need
you're-
to make him
Look,
look black.
before
Why
this
not-
goes down,
Dog,
Why not
this
just
is
stick
so
him in
stupid.
blackface?
Not the argument I'm making.
Castro is a white Spanish descended person, and
not white.
James Franco's grandfather is Portuguese. like he's like basically the same racial and ethnic
Well,
makeup as Castro.
It
Like,
is
what the
very-
fuck are we
Yeah.
talking about?
It
Not
is
white.
very important,
Castro's not
right?
white.
Like, look, we need
He's
to be more
Spanish.
inclusive. The Hollywood as an industry does absolutely
like,
need to be
Joe
more
Louis Bubbles
inclusive.
right
It needs to diversify the people it looks at. It needs to stop being so incestuous, right, with who it hires at, and it absolutely needs to give more roles to people of color, to people who've been historically shut out. But that cannot be the defining thing when it comes to these things. Look, acting, as like by definition, is playing something you are not. You are not this person. You are playing a role, and you're trying to present this role in the best way, most entertaining way possible, the most artistic way possible, depending on the role, right? So again, like I
I'll
hear
bite that
you.
bullet.
I hear you, Prime. Just real quick, I hear you, Prime, about needing more people in these roles, but that cannot. It should be a consideration, but it cannot be the sole consideration. It has to be something we look at, but it can't be something that we you know, if you don't look like the role, right, or if you're not from the same background as the role, then you can't play in this role, because that is going to hurt minorities more than anyone. No. Right, but that's where it goes. Like that's how it comes across. And to address Fabian real quick, so this whole idea of white erasure is silly. I'm an American guy. I'm a white guy. You can tell, right? You know, I'm a nice guy, but you know, I'm white. I'm not being erased by any of this. This isn't erasing me in any way, shape, or form, right? I don't suddenly not have a culture. I don't know who I am. Oh God, no, none of that. I'm pretty staunchly me, right? I've not been erased. None of this is erasing me or attacking me. I don't need like some sort of outside identity outside of you know, who I am.
Yeah, we get it. You have no culture. Got it.
That's
Move on.
cope.
No,
That's cope, Blake.
I'm
You
not.
were
I'm not a
literally just saying you
stereotype,
could-
and I don't need to stereotype myself to have some sense of self-worth or meaning.
That's cope.
And whoever does that, you know,
That's cope.
that's a little weird.
So,
but
Wake, like you're
Okay.
coping right now.
so
Wake, you're coping right now. In your own name, you put white. I'm okay? Question mark.
Because it's funny.
You are a little bit.
So I'll finally respond to our friend Scott, who is what? Were you drinking milk just then? Right? Were you trying to make a point?
No, I'm on keto right now. I've been on keto for a couple weeks. I'm just drinking water and black coffee.
No, I'm just messing with you. All right, yeah. But the role that I'm making is quite simple. It's quite simple, right? Like,
Did you say white simple?
I heard that too.
got that on your brain.
Jesus
heard that
Christ, you
too.
fucking racist.
Yeah, no. It's quite simple. Like, I don't mind like roles being like necessarily like race swapped. Like, it's not a problem for me. But when you do so, I think it's best if you are trying to one, either be inclusive or like try to have a for like artistic reasons, right? There, we said before about white MLK, there is an actual artistic reason why you would do that, right? Like, you could actually come up with a movie where that actually makes sense and it adds to the movie. You could do that, right? I think it would actually be a super interesting exercise. But
I want to
it's,
see Morgan Freeman
but
as
this
Professor
idea,
X. Like, who's with
but
me?
these,
That would be
Man,
dope
I
as
wanna
fuck.
See that so bad.
That'd be awesome.
Right?
but
It'd be great.
but there maybe we could come up with a reason to do that. We might be able to. We sat down and thought about it, right? But this idea of like the best actor, this is like the meritocracy bullshit, right? Oh, we're just going to own meritocracy, as if James Franco is necessarily like chosen because he is literally the best person to do this, right? Like, how could we have chosen everyone else? They looked at all the cases, right? Like all the male actors, and it came up James Franco. Well, what are you gonna do about that? Just,
PrimeCayes.
Yeah, so let me respond. So let me.
That's not how Hollywood has ever.
But the
ever,
question
ever
being
worked.
posed is, how do we
no,
think
let me-
it should work?
let me
That's
respond.
the question being posed. The
Yeah,
question
and I'm
being
telling
posed
you
isn't
how
does
it
Hollywood
should
work? It's
work.
how
I'm
do
literally
we
telling
think
you that.
Hollywood should work?
I'm literally in the middle of saying how it should work. That like and to understand that this thing, it's not a two-way street. Like, it's because white people have not been traditionally locked out of Hollywood. You all know this, right? I hope no one's pretending otherwise, right?
No.
That's why we have to fight for this types of representation. That's why it feels like a loss for minorities when minorities roles like don't go to them because it's hard for them to get a foot in the door. It's hard for anyone in Hollywood to get a foot in the door, right? It's very difficult to get into, but it's especially hard if you aren't white. As simply as the case. This isn't a two-way street. It's just not.
Yeah, so let me respond. So let me respond. No, it was directed to me. No, let me respond. I'm going to respond. I'm going to respond to Prime Cayes directing a question specifically to me.
I'm begging you. Please, Scott, you didn't give me anything for my fucking birthday. Please, I'm begging you.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
One sentence.
Okay.
No, I got you Tula Bar for your birthday.
Okay, hold on. Do you have something quick to say? Very quick.
I got you Tula Bar for your birthday.
I think I would just like you to, in your explanation of Prime, just explain why it seems like you have a problem with white erasure, but it seems like you're pushing Hispanic erasure through your argument.
And you already erased, and Scott already erased a white person. He erased Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler isn't German. He's Austrian-Hungarian, right? Yet you called him like talking about looking for a German.
Hungarian.
So whatever. Austrian.
Let me
he was
respond to what you're
born
saying.
in Austria-Hungary, so I don't know.
So let me respond to what you're saying. First of all, many years as of late, Black people have been overrepresented in films, and the LGBT have been overrepresented in films. So the idea that it's just based off the statistics in America, they've been overrepresented. What has been underrepresented in films actually is Americans. Americans have been underrepresented as a whole because of so many British and Canadian actors that we bring in. See, the fact of the matter is that you're playing identity politics about percentages, and even when you get the appropriate percentages, it's still not enough because you have to engage in racist, minority-focused identity politics. Very much like Hitler of you, right? Engaging in this Volkish identity of like how we're going to play our political game. It's very Hitlerian and fascist of you. But if we want to engage with what I actually said, what I'm talking about is that you have a double standard, a racist double standard, where you think ethnicity all of a sudden matters, and that's important for like a standpoint epistemology perspective of certain ethnicities, so long as they fit in your identity groups that you believe are underrepresented, even though statistically they're not, so you're factually wrong, or that they have a harder time, even though statistically it's easier for them to get jobs, so you're factually wrong. But because of the history, the historical analysis of how in the past they've been wrong, so we need to write it now with statistical, fixing and equity. I call that sombrero capitalism, because you're a racist engaging in this bullshit numbers game. When what I want to do is I want stories to be told, and I want good stories to be told, and I want everyone's stories to be told. If we're going to be a melting pot of America, then we should tell everybody's story. And the fact of the matter is that Alina is the title of the movie about Alina Fernandez, and Alina Fernandez checked off on all of the actors. They were not going to move forward unless she accepted the roles as they were. So you're talking about the person the movie is about and based around, and the person playing her father, she agreed James Franco would be good for, and an overwhelming majority of the cast is Hispanic. But you only care about ethnicities when it's minority ethnicities, and not care at all about ethnicities when it's so-called white people, because you don't care whether or not white people are connected to their culture.
And that's the other fucking point that you made that was annoying. Well, so many things.
Well, it's just me combating your racism. It's annoying to racists.
Doobie, thank you for your kindly gifting that sub. It wasn't. So I love how Scott is trying to pin this on black people. Black people somehow erased white people, right? They had
Never
all
said
these
that.
ethnicities before.
Pivot. Deal with the
right?
points or cut.
Yeah, whatever. Nope. This is exactly what you're implying, right? That black people and leftists.
Exactly what I'm implying. Your mind reader now.
Whatever. Shut up. It's my turn to talk, so I'm talking. Thank you. So that's somehow this was taken away from white people. The multiculturalism took it away from white people. That's exactly what you fucking said. Exactly what you said. Roll back the VOD, right? You said because of multiculturalism, white people have been foisted on white people. They've lost their European identities. That's exactly what you fucking said. Roll back the fucking VOD.
Well, now you just changed what you said that I said.
Shut up. Hey, I'm fucking talking. Not you. If you need assistance, let me know. I will assist. Okay. Any which way, it wasn't white people or leftists or black people or some sort of external group that forced this on white people. It simply was race relations in America. race relations, like with white people being opposed to other races within these race relations, that's what erased white identity in that way. That you simply brought people in from these groups. Italian Americans were Italian at one point. Irish Americans were Irish when they were opposed to whiteness. But they got gathered into this vague idea of whatever whiteness is in America, and then suddenly they're white. Suddenly we don't talk about these things anymore. We don't. Their culture isn't celebrated in the same way, right? Beyond what people are holding on to, like St. Patty's Day or whatever the fuck, right? Like whiteness is opposed to all other races, and so that ends up erasing the unique qualities of white individuals within themselves, within their own groups. That's how it works in this country. But it wasn't black people. It wasn't certainly anyone else that did that to white people. It wasn't multiculturalism that caused that. Now I'm done.
Okay, real quick. I just want to respond to that. You're such a racist, and you're so infected with Marxist philosophy that you heard what I said and magically created an argument that I said that black people did this. I never said that. And I never said that it couldn't be white people and race relations that did this. But you see the world through a dichotomy of identity politics where you immediately assume that I am a representation of my racial category and that I'm arguing against your racial category as black people. And you need to fix your fucking self because it's disgusting. You're fucking racist for engaging that way, and your own behavior proves it.
I absolutely don't.
You created arguments that didn't exist because of your racial
framework. You literally just created an argument that didn't exist. You just did that right now. You just did that right this second. That I thought like you were opposed to black people.
You keep blaming me saying black people did this. I never mentioned that at all, but that's the world you live in because you're a Volkish. You're pre-Nazi. You're the closest thing to a Nazi on this panel.
Can we stop it? Can we stop using Nazi for everything? Can we stop it, please?
Let's go to Lactoid.
Why? They're both Volkish.
For the kind sub,
Point makes sense.
So my question, I guess I have a question for you, Prime, because there seems to be two lines of thought here. Like the one line of thought that I think a lot of people in this panel, including myself, are taking is what makes you suited to play a role in actually playing that role. But you seem to also be adding sort of the secondary point, which is like, that's one consideration, but the other consideration here is that there's a history of oppression, and that sort of like affirmative action, like we need to like do something to make these roles more open to people of color, right? And so, and this is, I'm reading directly off the Hollywood Diversity Report, right? So it's only been getting more diverse basically over the past 10 years. But as of 2018,
I'm going hard tonight.
The white share of all top film roles was 69.1% in 2018, which is a significant decline from the 77% figure noted for 2017. Meanwhile, blacks were overrepresented among all top. That's what I'm reading verbatim off the study. Meanwhile, blacks were overrepresented amongst all top film roles in 2018, enjoying an increase in their share in these roles from 9% to 14.9% overall, which is significantly higher than the population of black people in America. So my question for you then is, if we're going off this, well, we want representation, wouldn't you also have to argue, yes, we need less white people as actors, we need less black people as actors, and we should shift all these roles over to Hispanics because that's who we need more of?
Sure, and I'll respond to you. See, once again, taking a shot at Scott because Scott doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, right? Scott, made up an argument about percentages. I never said anything about percentages at all, right? Never heard it come out my mouth, but that's where he went because that's what he does. He makes this shit up all the time. So, anyway,
that's a nice try to recovery. You can't do it, buddy. You got bodied.
I've never said that we should be like trying to match percentages within population. That doesn't make any sense at all. Absolutely not, right? Simply that we need to be making a better effort to let people in from other races, right? And ethnicities, to have them represented, and the stories that we tell, and then the individuals who tell those stories as actors, or maybe directors and stuff too. Yes, there is you need to find a person who can do that role, right? But we have a myopic view of who can do those roles. We end up going back to the same old well of individuals. And again, I think James Franco is a really good actor. I enjoy his roles. I don't enjoy things he might have done in his personal life, but I think he is a fun person to watch on screen. But what happens in these arguments, you've seen it already, is that people will say, "Oh, well, we need to find the best person for that role," implying that James Franco is that. And that's not the case at all. You can literally find another white guy who could do a better job, right? Yes, he looks like him, but makeup can do any fucking thing, right? Like Charlize Theron, right, one of the most beautiful women fucking ever, was made to look like terrible, like a horrible individual in the role Monster. Do you remember that? Like,
I'm with you, but most beautiful woman ever, one of the most beautiful women ever.
In Hollywood, she is.
I want to narrow
Charlize Theron is gorgeous.
If I could.
Fuck that shit.
You're asking us to
But I'm gonna
From
I'll
the
let-
front, maybe.
I'll hit back to you. Oh wow.
I want to narrow the question maybe to make it more clear.
Okay.
So basically, the reason what I read out was you have in film in all the top roles, you have black people and white people are overrepresented, and so when we're talking about this, people of color don't have as much equal access. Well, that's not true for all people of color, right? Black people have more than enough equal access. White people have more than enough equal access, right? If we're basing off the percentages of people in those roles. And so I guess would you be willing to say yes, we should be giving black and white roles to other people?
It's literally just Asians. Asians are the only underrepresented group.
Shut up.
And Hispanics.
The way they categorize it, they add the numbers to white.
Oh my God! Don't worry, I'll do it for you. All right. But I wanted to answer your question previously. I was going to get to that, but of course Scott interrupted. Don't worry, I took care of that for him. All right. I think that's interesting. Again,
I get muted
I'm
every
not talking
panel.
about putting percentages in, right? Like that's not what I'm trying to do at all. However, I would say that black people have gained a lot of ground, a ton of ground within Hollywood, right? And other stories aren't being told as well, right? And there's only so many of these things. Only so many of these films and TV shows that are being made, right? It's actually growing because of streaming, right? There's more content and more people have access to that content, whether it be as actors or directors or whatever, right? So that's increasing, but not necessarily the mix of individuals who are being part of it. So I just read a story about a Filipino movie that's coming out by John Choi. I forget his name. Joy. Sorry, fuck. I'm gonna mess up his name, but he's a comedian, right? You probably heard him, you've probably seen him before, and he's Filipino, and he's telling a Filipino story, and he's like, I specifically need to get this out there because I never saw any
horrible comedian, by the way,
as a Filipino individual, right? And they're underrepresented. Yeah, let's do that, and it might mean that might be some less black people, right? If you really make that effort, there might be less black people on screen, but that's okay, especially if we're getting more representation of all these groups, because America is such a mixed bag.
You know
So
what?
I just want to I want to end this
Oh.
tangent real quick if I could. I think this argument on that side, I think this argument simply boils down to the affirmative action argument at this point, right? This idea of we have certain we want certain groups represented more often, and the counter to this is obviously, well, no, we don't want race. We can accept that there are non-meritorious reasons why people get ahead, and we're against all those reasons, including non-meritorious considerations such as race. That's what the anti-affirmative action argument would be. And I think that's sort of the argument that's being put forward here, which is maybe not all actors, maybe it's true that actors don't get all the positions that they get because of their merit, but it should be based on merit, and adding this extra non-merit factor in that now we have to consider as well. Why is that helping the situation?
Lactoid, my question to you then is, right, if you're saying you're against all those non-meritorious aspects, right, and you think that Hollywood, and I believe that you would want Hollywood to have more of a mix of individuals, right? You would, I can say that about you, right? That you would like people to have more of a mix. How you may quibble about how it's done, but you'd be that would be a good thing in your eyes, Lactoid?
So I take I personally take the position that people laugh at, which is I don't care about the race of the person as long as they can play the role effectively. Like you could have you could have Hollywood or other organizations such as like the NBA
Still
who
muted.
are like overwhelmingly black. Like you could have a situation like this, and I'm a massive like basketball fan. I don't care. I just don't care that I don't see white people when I look at the fucking court because why should I?
But why?
You represented everywhere else.
Yes, exactly. Because you're
I
fucking
would.
represented everywhere
Okay,
else. No.
maybe I don't. Maybe I couldn't predict if I would care if I didn't see white people, but I guess I don't care now, and I can't think of like
What are you
an
talking
ontological
about?
reason why I should care.
Of
What do you-
course,
no.
because yeah, again, you don't have that experience. Like growing up, I had that experience. Things have changed. Things have improved. But I had that fucking experience. Don't worry, Scott. I'll unfree you. I'll free you soon after Wick. But I had that experience growing up, not having a representation, looking, trying to find it anywhere that I could, and it meant a lot to me when I did find it, and the places I was interested in, right, like comic books at the time. Like I actually did care about that stuff because it sucked, right? Not having heroes that looked like me. It actually did. You didn't have to deal with that, and that's okay, right?
So
like,
in a situation
to
like
say
this,
to say that like you are against those non-meritorious actions, like or reasons why people get in those roles, well then what are you gonna do about it? That's my question to you. What is it you're gonna do about it? Affirmative action, and this is basically affirmative action, fair enough, right? But affirmative action is a way to actually tackle that, right? To say that even if in a case where like if Lactoid is a director here, and Lactoid's not a racist guy, I don't believe that. But he's looking around for individuals, but he like, well, I know James Franco, and I know he could crush this role, so I'm gonna hire James Franco. But if you it's simply because that you knew him. If you knew some other people, you'd hire them as well. But you don't, because that's how race works. You kind of get locked into these things. So we're trying to give people incentives to look outside of their usual social circles and find individuals that'll be great, like a fantastic discoveries. But an effort has to be made to do that. If we just go along to get along, then it's never going to happen. So respond to that, and we go to Wick and Scott.
for any kind of role in a massive like production, which I'm assuming it is, considering that James Franco is going to be part of it, you obviously should cast multiple people, like, or you should like try out multiple people and see how they fit the role before you pick somebody. And it should be based on like, this person plays this very convincingly. You make an interesting point. Like, I still don't agree with it. For several reasons, but you know, I can see the argument of like, for children's superheroes or like specific like children's icons growing up, you want that representation. This is a movie about Fidel Castro, like a mass murdering dictator. So my question is like,
My icon.
well, but like we don't want anybody to make this person an icon or like to feel represented by this person. People should despise this person. And if you look at Doobie's,
it should be played by white
your
people.
Western colonialist narrative.
if you look at Doobie's screen right now, look at his skin. Okay,
He's pointing to his non-white skin.
That is a white man.
Okay, compare your skin
at
to
him.
his skin. You're a white man. Scott's a white man. He is not a white man.
No.
He's a white
I
brown
am
man.
pale as fuck. I agree. Like, he lives in a warmer climate, so he's not going to be like me. Like,
He's
I don't
not
get outside
white.
enough. Look at him.
He's not
He's
white.
not a
and
streamer,
he,
okay?
and
If he was a
as a
streamer,
non-white
not a
person,
He'd be
was
just as
subject,
white as me.
was subject to the oppression that whites have been inflicting upon
No.
the other races for
Doobie.
fucking centuries.
No, Doobie, get outside. White people who spend time outside
Oh,
look like
God.
this. They don't look like us, right? They look like that.
Let's
I
go
refuse
to
to believe
let's
in
go
outside,
to let's go to
Okay,
our friend,
I'll tell you
uh,
first off.
Wick
okay,
and then Scott, please.
Yeah. Prime, I'll tell you first off, like, if I was going to cast a movie with the role of an awesome panelist host, an awesome host of a panel, I would cast you because you're my buddy and you could be represented in this space. I would do that for you, right? I would absolutely do that for you. When we talk about tools, though, because you're right, doing nothing isn't an option here. It's just not, right? But we have to look at, that doesn't mean that affirmative action is the way to go. Like, it might work, kind of, right? Like, I could get to Walmart on a horse, right? I could do that. It would work, but it's not the most effective or efficient way to go about this. It'll have some other problems. So I think that it's pretty unfair to say that, well, we need to do something, so obviously we have to do this. No, obviously we don't. There are other ways to tackle these issues. I think that when we look at this specific situation, right? This specific movie, this specific casting decision, there is nothing wrong with it. There is nothing inherently wrong with it. And again, if everyone in the movie, if all all the Cubans portrayed in the movie were a bunch of white guys, right? That would be a problem. But as far as I know, at least, that's not the case. And when it comes to this specific role, allowing someone who isn't a Cuban national to play Fidel Castro, again, I think that we are extrapolating a lot of bad information out of it.
Was the best person for the role.
Best person, I think he was good enough, right? He was good enough
so
that
there
it's
could be someone better.
like, is he the
If-
absolute best? Like
if
you
they-
said, it's not reasonable. It's not reasonable to look for the absolute best, right? Like,
you-
but
you
in
could
the
have found, if the directors look, they might have found someone better.
they might not have
They might not have. True.
for their budget,
Could they-
for their time constraints, for all these other factors
Yeah,
that play
yeah.
into
Hold
this.
on, for the budget. You could find someone cheaper. You could literally find someone cheaper. than
Sure.
James Franco, right?
Sure, but you could also
Okay.
probably find people that cost more. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
you
almost
could
Do you
find
think
a
it's
person cost
reasonable
more.
to allow like white people to? So even when you're like looking at like making the casting decision, right? Like sending out your fucking advertisements, or whatever, to get people interested in auditioning for this role. So do you think it's reasonable to send that to white people at all, given that this is a minority role?
sure.
this
If
is
they're
a
if they're
non-white
known
person?
actors, I don't see it being
I don't believe you. I think you're
unreasonable.
bullshitting.
No,
I think
it's
what's
not
happening
at
right
all.
now. I think what's happening right now is something that I've seen happen like a lot over the last few years, where we have like the woke lefties, right, and the colorblind quote unquote righties, combining to some fucking like blob monster that is totally
Oh, come on, you know me better than that. I am not a
the
woke
concerns of
lefty or a
any
colorblind
racial
variety.
group that isn't black or white, right? And now suddenly all the non-black Hispanics, the non-black minorities become white. The Indians are white. The Asians are white, et cetera, because you just don't give a fuck about race, right? Of course. But I think that I think you'd agree in other contexts, right, with other historical figures, race does matter sometimes.
But
And
I
that's
said
okay.
over and
It's
over
okay
again.
for us to acknowledge that race does matter sometimes, and this I think is a
said
case where
over and
race
over
matters.
again- I've said over and over again on this panel, right, that if all the people being cast were just some American white dudes from Appalachia, right, it would be a problem. But that I guarantee you that's not going to
Why
be
is
the
that a
case
problem?
here.
But this
It's a
one
matter of
is-
scale, right?
Why?
Like these things are a matter of scale.
Why is allowing white people to
Why is it a
audition for
matter of
this role
scale?
at all?
When
Okay.
you have too much of something, right? When you have too much of something,
He's the
that
main
does
fucking
harm.
character. It's Fidel Castro. He's the only one in this cast that people don't know.
I
He's
don't
not the
care if
main
it was a
character.
woman playing Fidel Castro. If they got Charlie
You'd be okay with a
Theron
woman
to play
playing
Fidel
Fidel
Castro,
Castro.
I think it would be
okay,
fine
I
if
think-
that's the
I think
decision
you
they
are-
made. Yes.
I think you are woke scolding yourself right now. Okay. I think
Why
you
is
have
that
your-
woke
I
scolding?
think you have your
exactly?
your fucking flagellants whip out and you're whipping yourself in the back because you're so non-racist. You're so non-problematic.
Yo, this
You
ain't
can just
it.
replace it because everybody's just interchangeable to you and nothing fucking matters.
No one believes you.
Let's
you
go.
say that.
I don't
Let's
believe
go.
you.
Let's go to our friend Scott and then Lactoid.
Yeah, so I just want to address a couple of things. First of all, we said that Lactoid does have representation in film and on TV, and that's just a blatant lie because you guys are using
aisle.
race.
And then
You guys are using race when it applies to white people, and then when it applies to Hispanics, you want to magically switch to ethnicity. The fact of the matter is that Lactoid is Swedish, and the only representation he has is fucking Avicii and Greta Thunberg. That's it. Okay? The last fucking movie made about a Swedish hero was in 1995 about Alfred Nobel, who, by the way, was kind of a piece of shit in many ways. The second thing is this idea that, like, oh, I'm just white now because I'm white passing, or because I have mostly white ethnicity, but that doesn't magically apply to Fidel Castro. Because here's the fact of the matter. I have freed black slaves on my mother's side and my father's side, as well as runaway black slaves on my mother's side of my DNA. And my people are from Appalachia on my mother's side. Right? They were Melungeon. It's Sioux Indian and freed and escaped
Scott,
slaves
if you don't agree
and
with that, why are you
Irish people
propagating it?
coming together. Right? So I am a mixture of a
We
whole
need you
bunch
in a
of
movie.
things. So I'm
But
a
Scott, if you
combination
don't
of a
agree
whole
with
bunch
that,
of things.
if you don't agree with that shit, why are you doing it?
What What do you
You're
mean?
saying,
If
hey,
I
if
don't
you-
agree with
you're-
that
you're
shit,
saying,
why
hey,
are you doing
you know,
it?
well,
Make
why-
an
why-
argument.
if you pass enough as a white person to lefties, right? You're just white, right? And you're saying this as if you don't agree with that.
I'm
right? But it
pointing
seems
out the
like you do.
hypocrisy that there is in ethnicity.
You're the one being the hypocrite right now.
No, I'm not
You're
being
the
a
one.
hypocrite.
You're the one making the lefty argument that he's white passing, so it's okay to portray him as a white person.
I'm not making the argument that I've made the same argument from the beginning that the narrative is what matters, not the ethnicity or the race of the individual. What I'm pointing out is the hypocrisy that all of a sudden ethnicity matters so long as it's the right political group, but white people are just a monolith in America and it doesn't matter what their culture or ethnicity is. That this is the true hypocrisy and racism of the ideas.
Because again, so I would agree with you, and I do agree with you, right? That white people have become like this, like this amorphous blob. If you're white, you're just white. You're not Irish. You're not Scottish. And anything else, you're just a white person. I agree, right? And hey, maybe that's not a good thing, right? And I think you'd agree that hey, this isn't a good thing because there's a ton of cultural context, ton of historical value in recognizing these different histories that we have, right? I'd agree with that, but it seems like maybe it's like a spite thing. It seems like because you've had this done to you, into your background, into Lactoid and his background, you just want to apply this to everybody else and say, hey, if it's done to me, I'm going to do it to you. So it's okay to dismiss Fidel Castro, Fidel Castro's non-whiteness because he's not fucking white. To say he's a white guy because he's white passing, and to have a white actor portray him.
No,
it just seems like
there's
you're
no
making an argument out
spite
of
here.
spite right now.
There's no spite here because I don't mind that I don't have like a European culture to cling on to.
We're just mocking
My ethnicity is American. That's what I am because my ethnicity is
just
made up
mocking
of
Wicker saying something like that.
no, literally that is my ethnicity because I have so many different racial ethnic groups mixed into me and racial groups mixed into me
Why would you
that
say
I'm
that
an
Wick doesn't
American.
have a culture? Why would you say that Wick doesn't have a culture?
Because he literally said that he refuses to connect to
Not
any
American?
of his culture, of any of his culture in any way, shape, or
What's
form,
American
and
culture?
didn't
What does that
claim
mean?
an
What's
American
American?
culture. He claimed white, which is a racial category. He claimed the fucking census
Wick,
as
is
his
this
culture.
true? Wick, is your culture just white? Is that
Look,
is that...
I grew up, okay, for the first 7 years of my life, I grew up in England. Then I moved to Florida. Then I moved to Hawaii. Then I moved to all these
Wow.
other places. What culture am I? I don't know. It's I've a military culture, maybe, I guess, perhaps. But it's silly to just claim I have a specific culture. I'm very multicultural.
Case in point, he made it for me. Like,
You're a mutt, basically.
British. Okay, it explains the teeth. All right, lactoid. That's okay, buddy.
That's mean.
Well, it is mean. I'm just messing with my good friend there. You want on out?
Yeah.
I got some background noise from someone. What is that staticking noise
It's
coming?
not me.
Yeah,
Not me.
there's a staticking noise.
Yeah,
I hear it.
It was from Doobie.
Yeah.
Okay, and then me, and then me.
Al,
And then me.
consider-
It's Isle.
Mute yourself. Maybe it's you. I'm not sure.
It was Doobie and then Isle.
It was Doobie. Then
That's
okay.
not me. That was
Okay.
not me.
I mean, I muted you in a weird way, but okay.
Okay.
So-
all right. So we'll go to Lactoid, the most oppressed person on this panel, please.
Thank you. I think we should contend after. I think Wick made an interesting point, like what makes a culture. I actually agree that I think it has a lot more to do with upbringing than just like tracing your like genetic ancestry, right? If I, I think I had like growing up, I had like a different experience, like going to Sweden all the time and stuff, and I think that is more credible than just saying, oh, I have this percentage of genes that happen to be from a particular area. But we can talk about that. But before we leave the topic, Prime, I thought about what you said, and I wanted to bring up. You talked about how representation matters, especially when you're growing up, and I said that although I disagree on some levels, like I can understand that argument, but I also wonder if this is a problem that is being imposed by the more leftist cultural forces in this country, right? So one of the things that constantly comes up every Halloween is this idea of you can only dress up in the Halloween costumes that fit your race, and if and don't culturally appropriate, don't dress up. And when Moana came out, there was advisories saying don't let your little girls dress up like Moana if they're not Polynesian, right? And Majid Nawaz came on and he talked about this, and he said something that I think is really interesting.
I don't know who that is.
Majid Nawaz, he's a really interesting guy. He was part of a terror network in his earlier days.
Went to prison
and then
in
he
Egypt. Yeah.
He went to prison in Egypt, and then he founded, afterwards he was reformed, and then he founded a counterterrorism network that tries to de-radicalize people, away from white supremacy, away from like radical, beliefs. Really interesting guy to listen to. And one of the things he said is, he pushed back against this, and he said, when little girls dress up like Moana, when they're white even, it means their role models aren't just white people. What's wrong with having a white child having a role models who's not a white child and wanting to dress like them or be like them? And I almost kind of feel as though when we say like, well, we need people to fit particular racial groups, so like everybody can have somebody within their particular racial group that they can identify with and they can associate with. My question is why? Why can't we have people associating and identifying with people from across all different racial groups? Why can't I have a role model in Black Panther just as much as a Black person can? Or you have as much of a role model in like fucking Green Lantern?
Hal Jordan.
Yeah, isn't there like a sort of racial like separation that like this inherently argues for?
So I'm going to answer your question, and we are going to go to Ty afterwards because Ty also had his hand up. But I will answer your question. But before I jump to that one, you said something previous about Fidel Castro that I did not think I answered very seriously. But like, in the case you said, well, while it's understandable that among children's media, you would want to have diverse representations, people can see themselves. Castro is not a person want anyone to be looking up to. But that's not the point of having Castro being Cuban. One,
Bear back, I gotta use the restroom.
Sure. It's just that for a person of Cuban descent, or someone close to that, I don't know, right? They could have insights into that role that make it better. Right, in ways that James Franco, not because James Franco is a bad actor, but just because he's not part of that culture, so he wouldn't even think of these things, right? You know how so many like famous movie lines are made up on the spot, right? Like they're not in the script, and people add that in. Something that happens in terms of like culture, right? Like cultural references that like a director might have understood. Let's say it was a white writer that came up with it, right? A perfectly good white writer, but they just didn't know. And they didn't put that thing in. But the actor, they have an understanding about this culture and like this will go well here, and it adds to the film, right? So and then secondly, while we shouldn't be inspired by Castro, certainly not, right? We shouldn't be inspired by him. But a person who watches the film and is of that ethnic descent might be inspired to become an actor by watching a person play that role, I see myself on the screen, so I can be there, right? Like I can be a part of it. So that's how I would answer that.
Can I address both?
Sure.
Okay, I'll address the second point first. I guess what I'm arguing is that the fact that it would inspire, like, I think maybe we should be changing the cultural framework here so that like I could be inspired to be an actor if I see Black Panther, right? If I see a Black person on screen doing an amazing job, and I might say, well, that guy's fucking awesome. Like, I want to be an actor now. It shouldn't be like, I only am inspired to be an actor if I see like someone who looks like me, like someone who's white. And I think we're sort of taught culturally to only appreciate people who look like us, which I think is a problem and something we should move away from.
I agree. Okay. And I'm going to respond to exactly that. Remember, Ty and Wick, I see your hands.
And the first thing you said, I wanted to clarify. You said something along the lines of, someone of Cuban ancestry may have unique insights. When you bring that up, it's interesting because the defense of this, you're making a merit argument now. You're saying that there could be something about this guy's racial background that makes him play the role better with more merit. And so I agree with you that if you're trying to doubt
All right,
different
boys, I'm
people,
back.
and you bring on somebody who's like ethnically Cuban, who has his kind of like cultural background and is able to like on the spot, ad lib and really gets it, like these should count towards the merit of bringing this guy on? Absolutely, because this person's like playing the role more effectively. But again, all we're saying is that the person who plays the role the best should get it. If their cultural background, it makes them play a better role, that's points for them. But if James Franco comes in and he's so good that he's able to play a better role even without that cultural background, then obviously he should still get the role too, right?
I would say that there are. I say that like this dynamic that you're setting up is generally like outside of reality, because this is not how Hollywood works, and that they're looking for like the person that plays it like the absolute best, especially when we're going for an A-list actor, right? Like he is absolutely an A-list actor. And he is well known, and you take him for his name. Those are a lot of other considerations completely outside of his acting ability that gets him there, right? That gets him there. Did he even have to read for the script? I actually don't know. I don't know, but he did he actually have to read for it? Because a lot of times they don't, right? It's like I want this person. I think this person might be great, and they don't even have to read for it. You just we'll present the script to you, and if you accept it, then you're in. Right?
See,
that works, especially on the Hollywood. Nope. We got a whole line of individuals. Right? We got Ty. We got.
Oh yeah, I'll prove you wrong later. It's okay.
We got Wick. Sure. I'm not sure if you had your hand up. And then Scott. Okay. And we got to move quickly. But Lactoid, I got to answer your first question that you had towards me. Right. So in terms of the costumes, right? I think it's a very nuanced conversation, a lot longer one than we have with the time remaining. But quickly, my thoughts. I agree with you when in terms of like little kids. Like I want to see little kids participating in other cultural artifacts. That's great, right? I want kids to be inspired by people who don't look like them.
You
right?
don't even know
That's
what I'm about
great.
to say.
100% with
Chat.
that. And so something as innocent as Moana, right? I think that kind of pushback saying that you shouldn't wear it, I think that's wrong. But there's a reason why that happened, right? I think it's an overcorrection because I think you'll agree with me that other individuals, right, oftentimes white individuals, have used these people's identities in a corrosive manner, right? Like you've seen like the fraternity parties, right, where people are in blackface and they're pimps, right? Or like they're prisoners or whatever the fuck, right? But in blackface, those people aren't valuing the culture of African Americans, right? We can understand that. I think what we're seeing there is in the terms of costume tends to be a huge overcorrection, because we don't want to see shit like that, right? Or when like like you got people who are white who are like doing like the war cry, the name of the war crying, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like we don't want to see shit like that, but we do want to see little kids like dressing up as like their favorite cartoon characters.
I'm about to fuck him
and
up
getting
so
that sort of
bad.
appreciation. So I think there's a nuanced conversation there. But yeah, all right. So let's go to our friend Ty Isle. Sorry, Ty Wick Isle.
Yeah, so I apologize for being like really quiet during this whole thing, but I had to like I'm a little tripped up, and I actually have to go like a level down from this conversation because I'll put it this way: a number of arguments have been made regarding the idea of people are insulted or upset or offended because somebody is like crossing lines from one racial group to another, or like appropriating a role from another group. And like I kind of get that, but I've got a serious problem. Even with all the history that I know, what constitutes a people? At what point did the colonists here that were English and French or German or whatever the fuck become white or American? Like, am I white? Am I American? Like, what the fuck am I? And I don't want to be like overly flamboyant with this, but even in the like the all white everything and the all black everything panels that Prime has done, is that I've seen this topic come up, and I don't think anyone has a really good answer for like what constitutes a people. So when someone's like, everybody. Hey, look, like Fidel is like, either white passing or white or Hispanic or whatever the hell, like, how do you know? And the problem is like, I hate to be that asshole here, but when it just comes down to it for me, is that I don't think anyone has any kind of like real concrete, this is that, and this is that, and this is that. And so I feel like this conversation has to some degree just jumped a whole level where it doesn't make a lot of sense. So if anyone wants to ground that for me, feel free to do so. But I'm sorry. I'm having a hell of a time here.
we got to keep moving. So
Sure.
we got to go to Wick, Isle, and Scott. We have like 9 minutes left on this
Sure,
topic.
I'll be brief, and if you want this to be my closing, it can be my closing here. One of the greatest regret probably not the right word here, but one of the things I look back on with sadness is when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, right? There was a lot of effort, a huge amount of societal effort to get us to see each other as one people, as human. We're all human, right? There's a huge amount of efforts because that was a problem that a lot of people weren't seen as human. They were seen as other. And we have reversed course entirely and decided that somehow it's time to put each other back in these little specific, hyper-specific boxes. And I think that's one of the greatest mistakes. We're going to be having to fix the same goddamn problems that we already fixed. And I understand it wasn't perfect. I understand that we're still issues. I understand that there are still times where race actually does matter, and we need to take into people's backgrounds into consideration. But we have fetishized it, we have hyperfixated it, and we have misconstrued it to a point where it's doing more harm than good, gang. Look, we should not, right, be looking and casting shade on a director because he wanted to cast someone as Fidel Castro because, oh, he doesn't like come from the same exact background as Fidel Castro. It's Fidel Castro. It'll be okay. Calm down. Okay.
Okay. All right. Affirmative action equals reverse racism. Thank you so much, Wick. Let's go to our friend Isle. Isle, if you're talking, we can't hear you. I didn't mute you.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I muted myself because so like John Legalismo is practicing legalism. That's why I call him such. He thinks that there's only one way to have a good movie about Castro. For someone looking at the picture because I haven't looked at him recently. So this one that is underdue Fidel Blanco more like because he's white passing. I would say that actually, I think James Franco could play him quite convincingly. I think that any things to the contrary is just speculation, and we're just like reading the tea leaves. We don't know so far. A trailer hasn't even come out, so we can't be sure. Everyone has been talking about how makeup can make anything happen. It's the magic of Hollywood, Tinseltown and all. So maybe he'll look super realistic and based as Fidel Blanco, and I think that he should be allowed to do that. Now, something I want to talk about is I think there's a double standard that we have to really think about. Where it's okay to blackwash a character, but it's not okay to whitewash a character. I think that's hypocritical, and I think that's just going to lead to more problems down the long run as people are going to have like lots of strife and resentment towards each other. I think we should all come together, have a colorblind society. We should all have merit-based, meritocracy, and like let actors play the roles that they are best for, and not let wokeism and inflating the numbers of like different people and different LGBT PCNF community members, like just for the sake of it. They should actually be able to be competent in their jobs and in their roles and create a good narrative. And that's where I'll end it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, luckily we don't have much time, or I'd have to deal with that too. All right, Scott, you'll get the last word on this, unless you say something terrible, then it'll force me to respond.
Yeah, you'll probably respond, but it won't be because it's terrible. So my biggest question, and I want to structure this, I don't understand why you want to deny opportunities to Latinos and why you keep arguing to deny opportunities for Latinos, because that's what you've been doing this whole time. Because the fact of the matter is that this is a Sundance film. This is not a Hollywood production. In fact, the director, Miguel Bardem, has never done a film in English as of yet. He's not a big director in terms of this is an Oscar bait and things like that. And you keep saying, well, that's not how Hollywood works. It's all about marketing and things like that and evil capitalism. Except the fact of the matter is that we do have capitalism. It's wonderful. And one of the best things about having James Franco be a part of this film is that it will make sure that a larger, more affluent audience is able to see this film, and it will bring butts in those seats, and it will give such great opportunities to the rest of the cast and the director that are Latinos. And instead, what you want to do is you want to argue about representation, except capitalism is what gives you representation. The beauty and the wonder of the market economy and the ability that we can put an A-list actor there, and that A-list actor can bring eyes and attention to all of these other actors that are outside of Hollywood that haven't gotten the representation that you think that they deserve, and instead shine a light on this and tell beautiful, wonderful stories from Latino perspectives. But instead you want to deny telling those stories from Latino perspectives, and you want to fix Hollywood, and you want to make sure that we all get the same sombrero capitalism, and that we all watch the same fucking 40 or 50 directors churn the shit from Hollywood, instead of Franco using his clout, if you will, to be able to bring eyes to this and give so many opportunities. I don't understand why you want to deny those opportunities to them, and why you're so racist in the way that you approach this previously. Me personally, I believe in representation, unlike you, and I believe in giving opportunities to people that are good, as well as good directors, regardless of their race and ethnicity, unlike you. And I believe in giving opportunities to Hispanics, unlike you.
Well, of course, our friend Scott, right? Doesn't disappoint. Said a dumb fuck thing, so I guess I'll respond. Yeah. So once again, I didn't say anything about capitalism. You said something about capitalism, making up an argument. What do you know?
No, I'm just smart enough to understand what you're saying.
But the big issue, right? And the thing that I'm trying, one of the alternate points I'm trying to get to, is that I want to create to find an actor, right, and to create a career that would equal James Franco, so that the next time we have a film like this, that when the director is looking at like taking everything Scott said on face value, which you really should not, but like taking everything on face value, the next time
why not? I don't lie about this shit.
Shut up. The next time a director wants to market themselves, right? Like if it's purely on like trying to get the widest audience, right, by using that star power, I want there to be a Latin individual that has that star power. Like, oh, of course, I'll think of this individual, right? But that only happens when we start opening the doors to these individuals and putting them in lead roles, right? You have to get them there, and either maybe they'll be a breakout star, maybe not, but maybe they'll be a breakout star, or maybe that'll be the start for them to getting other roles, so that one day they'll have that stature, and you don't have to go to a white guy to accomplish that very same goal. That's what I'm looking for. Okay.
So you're looking for someone with the exact same star power as James Franco in order
Can I
to
ask
play.
a quick question to you, Prime? We're moving on.
Sure, quick question. And then we gotta go.
If they're gonna do like a new ABBA
The perfect
movie,
role for every
and
movie.
they casted like a Swedish guy as like somebody else who's not Swedish, and I started
As
getting,
not a
like,
villain.
Yeah, well, and I get like upset at this. Would you like be on my side, or would you think I'm just kind of being silly?
That like if there's a Swedish actor that could be better,
No.
and they don't cast a Swedish actor, is that what you're saying?
Well, the assumption, well, I don't know their casting process, but the assumption is that there is some Swedish actor out there who probably could, like, you know, have the kind of background cultural understandings to play it better, and they cast like The Rock instead. I don't know, somebody, and like, would you be like upset by this?
Yeah, if it doesn't make sense for the movie. And
Like they had a British person play Anders Celsius.
We argued about a lot of dumb stuff, so I couldn't really get into the nuance. But I think there really is a lot of nuance into these casting decisions. I think it's not easy. That like it's hard to make a one size like fits all rule for these things. So it depends on the film. And like I was trying to say in terms of artistic creativity, are you trying to say like what would ABBA be if like they were Pacific Islanders, like The Rock is Pacific Islanders, right? Like maybe, and then maybe that might make sense, but maybe not. They're trying to tell a biopic, right? A straight up biopic of ABBA. And I guess they're Swedish. I didn't know their background, but like if they're Swedish, then yeah, you should probably look for beautiful Swedish people, all right, of the pure stock.
Wow. I didn't say that.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to our next.
I agree.
We'll move on
I'm
to
really
our,
mad at the Norseman film because they had a British person play the wife of the Norse individual, and that's just not enough white representation in that film.
Sure. We're moving on to.
Movies have attractive people play a lot, ugly people a lot.
Right.
We're moving on to our next topic. Okay. All right.
We need an ugly Pocahontas. Representation matters.
Yeah. That's another thing. Actually, that's really interesting. Like Scott, that's an honestly interesting point, right? Which finally you managed to get one in.
What the
but like talking about beauty standards there and like representation there.
The movie
You get
Frida
a lot
did
of
that, by the
beautiful
way.
people in Hollywood playing all kinds of roles. Which is why,
Bunch of ugly people not watching movies and then bombing because no one wants to
Uggos
go see
rise
ugly
up.
Pocahontas.
Uggos rise up in chat.
No,
Can
we should have
get
bad-
a-
we should have
can get
bad
a F
singers.
for Uggos in chat.
Bad singers should join bands too. We got to get representation.
Indeed.
I'm so sad that so many of you guys bought
All
into the myth that is race.
Let's move on to our next topic. But before then, guys, if you're enjoying this content, if you're enjoying what we're doing here, well then hit that follow button. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure the notifications are on, so I'm going live. I do this all the time, 6 days a week. I have these amazing individuals coming through, right, or playing video games. One or the other,
Hundreds
right?
of Ukrainian
if you
porn
want to be a
actresses
part of this
get
community,
passed
hit
for
that
the
follow
role.
button right now.
Dude,
Love
racism
to
in
have
cinema.
you.
Oh,
If
God.
you watch this later on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And
shit.
help out the channel with subs and super chats and all that good stuff. It's a huge help. X for social in Twitch chat. For our social media, we got Twitter where we tweet things, Discord where we have our conversation. We have a lot of conversations on Discord. Join us in our Discord. We'd love to have you there. And we have our open welcome panels, which we'll have right after this, right? So if you want to join that, join our Discord. We'd love to have you. TikToks, we find funny videos, to the channel, and YouTube's where you find the VODs. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go on to the next topic, which is on social media platforms. There is a growing problem in which drug dealers are selling products to children. Some of those children go on to overdose and die. Several new bills in Congress seek to address this, including Sammy's Law. This bill will force platforms to allow parents to track their child's activity through the use of third-party apps. This law, and others like it, have been criticized on privacy grounds. Are you in favor of this bill? Are the privacy concerns overblown? Should we fear unintended consequences, such as these tools being used to track adults? So yeah, this is a completely different topic from what we just discussed. I'm just learning of this issue, but it makes sense. Drug dealers are using social media to reach people, right? It just makes sense to use a platform to do that. And sometimes kids, they're targeting children, and they get them. The people in this article, they were parents of children who died of fentanyl overdoses. So they bought something, had some fentanyl, and they died from it tragically. And so those parents want to do something about that, and they're pushing various laws. Sammy's Law is one of them, but there are other laws as well. Pushing that to regulate social media platforms to have more accountability here. But not everyone agrees on those things. So I'm really curious what you all have to say about this. I think maybe we might have some interesting debates on this. So let's go to our friend Wick.
Yeah, so we grow into our rights as people. A child does not have all the rights, right, that we afford to the average citizen. I think the right to privacy is important. But when it comes to these social media apps, when it comes to the internet, parents absolutely have both the right and I feel the responsibility to keep track of what their children are doing on the internet, right? We need this law, specifically Sammy's Law, is a good law. Let's pass this shit, right? Let's get it passed. Look, there are concerns, the devil's in the details with these things, right? And I think that there is some risk of overbearing, some parents being overbearing, but those risks pale in comparison to the risks of not tracking your child's activities on the internet, right? And not just for drugs, but for all sorts of issues. Do you really want them to be listening to anarcho-capitalists? Do you want your child exposed to that kind of nonsense at an early age? Absolutely not. Any responsible adult would keep their child from such drivel and craziness. This is worse than drugs, in my opinion. But yeah, on a more serious note, less memery, you absolutely you need to keep track of
I love how he has to like backpedal and be like, it's memes.
Parents have
Don't come at me, bro. It's
and
just
the
memes.
responsibility to do so. Let's pass this law.
Wick has just won this panel. All right, might as well shut this thing down. Just in case, if there are any parents out there, right, turn away from the stream. All right, we got an anarcho-capitalist here. For our friend Scott, please go ahead.
Yeah, so the first thing I'd like to say is to Samuel and Laura Berman, go fuck yourself. I don't care that your kid died. The fact that you're a bad parent and you can't keep your kids off Snapchat and he died of a fentanyl overdose, I don't need you and your government to protect me from shitty parents like you. First of all, this law is fucking insane. Don't let your fucking kids on Snapchat. Point blank, period. The idea that we need the government to come in and tell corporations and businesses that they need third-party apps so that they can track what their kids are doing on Snapchat, because parents are too fucking stupid to not let their kids have Snapchat and not pay attention to what they're doing is shitty parents. We don't need a nanny state to try and fix shitty parents. And what is the dangers of allowing that nanny state to come in and fix shitty parents? Well, the dangers is Sammy's law is not the only law here. There's another law, Chats, right, that requires backdoor access for all law enforcement agencies so that they can track whether or not drugs and things of that nature are being sold via social media, and they can put out reports. This is exactly the real reason that the Democrats and Republicans are agreeing on this, is because it allows for more vulnerabilities and allows the state to have more ways of being able to track communications online. And it makes it so that other smaller companies like Gab and Parler and BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble have more financial risk and are less able to engage in the same social media activities by creating financial burdens that maintains an oligopoly so that the state can maintain its censorship. So yeah, pretty much that. The last thing I'll say is Sammy's law, first of all, anybody supporting this law is a fucking idiot because nobody can read this fucking law yet. All we know is that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the same person that stepped down from the DNC after she cheated for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders and is nothing but a fucking neoliberal DNC shill, and now manages in Florida over top of Broward County, and couldn't be anything sus about her. She's writing a law and she tells us supposedly what's going to be in it. And the idea that you would support a law that you've never even fucking looked at and you don't even know what's in it is just as stupid. So that's what I'd have to say. Don't create additional vulnerabilities. Don't allow the state to track your shit, and don't create a nanny state to deal with shitty parents. And all of you parents that can't cope with the fact that you killed your kids because you didn't watch their social media or raise them appropriately, you don't need the fucking government to add an additional fucking program backdoor access for you.
Scott, as always, shy of his opinion, right? A little bit of wallflower there. Thanks so much, Scott. We'll get his thoughts out of him someday. Go to Isle, please.
If you're the type of parent who thinks that the only things you need to look after your kids is Xbox Live and a crack pipe, you shouldn't be a parent. And if you're the type of person who's so negligent that you just let your child go out in the middle of the night to like the park at like 3 a.m. to do like back alley, public bathroom orgies where they're shooting up heroin laced with fentanyl, and they get an overdose and die on the floor of a dirty bathroom. Well, then that's on you, because you should have been on top of that, my guy. And it doesn't matter if it was from Snapchat. It doesn't matter if it was from, Greg, the local pedophile. You should have been on top of your kids, making sure that's your responsibility to make sure your children are safe. I remember as a child, I'm young, but I still remember in the early 2000s, late 90s. Like, I used to watch, my family used to watch Fox a lot. And at 10, there was always the notification, it's 10 a.m., it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Well, you need to know where your children are. Obviously, these guys did not know where their children's were, and their children's were getting fentanyl in their veins, and they died. That's what happened. And so I
Yo,
don't
Isle
think
of
that we
Owls
should
coming up
punish
to
the
double
rest of
down
us
with me.
with the
Fuck these shitty ass parents.
you know, with like authoritarian
I need the
backdoor
government to fix this.
technocracy,
Don't let
people
your kid a
spying on
fucking
us, trying to
Snapchat.
like social engineer us via algorithms and trying to find out what we're doing, who we're sending dick pics and soliciting breast pics from. That's not cool. We shouldn't have that. I don't want that. I don't want that to be our world. I don't want the PCNF community to be disrupted by having their illicit photos and meetups, you know, raided by FBI agents. I don't want that for the PCNF community as I am a member. And so, no, we cannot allow this to happen. I'm sorry, it's a tragedy when a child dies, because just like Whitney said, children are the future. But like also what we just said, we have to raise them right and let them show us the, you know, and show them the proper way so they can show us the beauty they possess inside, okay? And they can't show us the beauty they possess inside if all their veins are exploded from an overdose of fentanyl, okay? They're dead. They're gone. It's too late for those kids. It's not too late for all the other kids
Okay,
alive.
gotcha.
So parents,
Okay.
you need to be better parents. Thank you. That was just a quick PSA. Thank you.
Uh, uh, Tiberius, all the kids are dead because you have not kept track of them.
Yeah, like I feel bad right now because I originally had like some opening statements that I was gonna go, and the last two speakers have kind of walked me back from that. I'm like, all right, no, we're not doing this.
What
So
the fuck,
I might
dude?
split the middle here. Number one, every time that you have a parent tell their kids, no, you can't do something, it's almost like an encouragement for the kid to go find a way to fucking do it. I hate this, but we all were teenagers at one point, and like, there's just a level where you can police your kids, but only to a certain point. And the problem is like, as they grow older and as they get more freedom, because you're going to give them opportunities to succeed and fail, is that they're going to have like opportunities for mistakes and horrible shit to happen. It sucks, but yeah, like I've had kids in high school who passed away because they did the wrong things. Like, it sucks. It's the reality. Here's the other side of this. Should parents be very concerned about what is going on online? Yes. Maybe
New quote,
we
boys.
should
Read the
have
new
a back
quote.
door so that you can have a guaranteed third-party app if you're gonna have your kid online. But I'll put it in this regard: every report that that I have seen for the last 5 years indicates that Gen Z being online is indicating that we are seeing rapid amounts of antisocial, emotionally distraught, and mentally distraught behaviors coming out of them, to where, as an example, suicide is almost doubled among the younger age group it's almost doubled. I cannot talk today, apparently. I'm not gonna be like the guy that says, hey, look, we gotta shut all the kids off the internet, but we have to come with the realization here that we have to be very cautious about what they're going to be engaged with on the internet, because it's horrible for them. You'll remember getting bullied back in high school? Well, now it follows you home. So, like, that's a really big issue. But on the other side of that is that, can you force this shit? Like, almost, like, the government tells you that you can't do this. Like, the kids are just gonna be like, fuck you, government, let's go. So I just don't know what the solution is here, and I thank you for letting me have this intro.
Thank you so much. Let's go to friend Lacto.
Well, I also had an intro written, and I don't know. I don't agree. There's probably going to be a lot of disagreement about this. When you lose a child to a drug overdose, the idea that we can just say "fuck you," like, be better parents, I think is a little bit heartless, and I also don't think it's productive, and I don't think it's within the realm of reality. This idea that parents should always be able to know what their kids are up to on technology that they themselves didn't grow up with and they don't know all the intricacies of, where you can have younger kids who know this technology better and are preyed upon by people on these devices, and in this case, killed, I think it's fair that the parents are upset. I think it's fair that they want something to be done about this. I think we should be discussing like the specific policy implications and trying to make sure we narrowly tailor any kind of bill we do pass. But yeah, no,
I'm
I've
not saying
argued
fuck
this for a while, right? Children don't have these rights that adults have. They should be under direct supervision from parents, teachers, and other adults
Children
that are
have the
tasked
same
with
rights
protecting them.
Bullshit.
In fact, one of my main problems with this is that I think there should actually be
Parents
less
have
of a burden put on
guardianship
the
of the
parents and
rights.
more of a burden put on the companies, right? Snapchat should actually have things in place to not allow adults to prey on children. This shouldn't even be a thing, right? Like pornographic websites or websites that pedophiles can find these kids should have protections in
Here
place
it
to
comes.
prevent this from happening,
The
and
right-wing
not rely on a
authoritarianism.
parent who may be too busy or may be absent to take care of a kid. Because at the end of the day, if you're a kid and you got a parent that's absent, you know, it's easy to say, well, fuck you should have had better parents, but they're dead and they didn't choose their parents, okay? They were born in that situation. They didn't pick their parents. And as a child, they were manipulated by somebody to buy drugs, and they died of a fentanyl overdose. I think it's a tragedy. No, I think saying, fuck you, parents, you should have done a better job, I think that's reprehensible, but that's just...
Oh, you're a stand-up individual, Lactoid. So of course. Let's go to our friend Sprouticus, please.
Of course it's reprehensible. Of course it's reprehensible to say, fuck you parents, you should have done a better job, and I don't give a fuck that your kid died. That was absolutely disgusting.
The moral
I
grandstanding.
was gonna say no, that I don't think this should exist, and that was simply based off of the idea of abusive parents. That this causes too much of a risk in my mind for abusive parents to have more control over their kids to where they can't reach out for help. I was gonna say no because of that, but somehow the talking points that have happened so far on this panel are gonna make me say yes. Like
Right, 'cause
they've
you don't have
gone
any fucking
so fucking
principles.
far that it's like, you know what, I'm gonna say yes now because obviously the rewards are greater than the risks. So yeah, I think it should exist.
Well, Wiki and Lactoid W already. Okay.
Huh. So we'll go next to our Dark Lord and Savior, Doobie. Fuck. Doobie, I don't know why you insist on giving myself and my audience nightmares, right? But thank you so much.
It's a beautiful
Doobie, please.
picture. That picture is 100% generated by AI based on my inputs. By the way, it's very cool.
Cool. Wow. Okay, please.
Yeah, it's
go
cool.
ahead.
Very, very nice picture. So I just gotta say, I think it's super interesting that some people on this panel right now are willing to set aside what I think are their principles and their convictions because somebody said something really harshly on while backing the position that they would have had. I think that's a little weird. I think if you have a position, you should probably stick to it, even if somebody promoting that position is an asshole. That being said, I think it's totally fine for the government to have backdoors into these apps. I think these companies should be held liable for what's going on in their apps. Snapchat, Discord, Instagram, etc. These things are full of pedophilia, child porn being exchanged, drugs being sold, prostitution, underage prostitution. Right, this is all over the fucking place on these apps. Yeah, the government should have a way to look in and make sure that this stuff isn't happening. When it is happening, it's caught and dealt with. Right, and yeah, so I don't understand why we'd be opposed to that unless you're just okay with like child porn being freely sold on these applications.
That's, not least, we have a new person here. We're very happy to have them. Their name is FK. Hello, hi, thanks for being here. So you know which
Hey,
topic
what's up?
we're on. So you can give us an intro to the topic and also introduce yourself to the audience, please.
All right, I'll introduce myself first. Hey guys, I'm FK. I'm new to Twitch. I had just started. I did like a test stream yesterday, basically just to get everything set up. But I'm hopefully going to be streaming more often. First, I want to build off of what Doobie said, right? Actually, it's
Give me a
it's
second,
even more
boys.
disgusting that
Gotta
some of these
fix my
people came
laptop.
in here with a certain idea of what they were going to say, and just because the people
There we go.
said what they said, they're going to change their mind. When
Give
I
me
heard them
just a
say
sec.
what they said,
I'm
I didn't
sorry.
change my mind. My mind was made up. What they're saying is fucking disgusting. You can't blame a parent for not having the tools necessary to deal with these problems that we're dealing with in our modern era, right? the internet is so accessible, and even if you put on these blockers, you can put on all these things you want to, but there's workarounds, and kids will find those workarounds. All you're saying is, I know that you're not equipped for this problem, but fuck you, your kid died, your kid got raped, whatever happened to your kid happened, and it's not our problem. You're so scared of the government having some ability to keep our children safe, keep us safe as a society, that you're willing to, like, just because of what? You're scared that the government might see you sold a joint to someone? If you're selling joints in a state where it's illegal, you should be arrested. You should be held in charge for what you've done. I'm gonna dot there. We'll build off from wherever this goes.
Okay, so
I need to clarify
if I may,
something.
just
Right here in the chat.
just
Something
real
was said
quick,
about
if
me.
I may.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so we'll go to Lactoid then Mick.
Okay, so just to
I've been
clarify,
attacked multiple times. Okay.
Okay,
Just
so
to-
sorry, we'll go Lactoid, Wick. I also since you were attacked. You feel you were attacked. All right, then our friend's product is right.
Yeah, you can all.
okay, just to
No,
clarify,
I don't
like
think-
I did not change my position. I have it written down. I have the intro written down, right? I do think
He's talking about
Talk about
Sprout.
me.
Sprout
Talk
doesn't have
about
any.
me.
Okay,
They're
okay,
talking about
okay.
me.
Well, there was said some people, you can defend yourself, Sprout. I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm going to speak for myself here. I do have the position that we do have an obligation to protect children from harm. I just modified the rhetoric slightly because of some of the things that were said beforehand. So just to clarify that.
So I have two points, right? And the first point is kind of just to the people who are saying, how dare you change your mind? Yo, if you get more information, you hear an argument that makes you change your position, change your position. Don't die on these weird hills just because, oh my goodness, I'll look inconsistent. No, if someone makes it, if you are convinced, go with what convinces you. That's how you should do it. As
There
you
was
get
no
more
argument
information on
made.
topic, you should 100%.
If you're just changing your mind because somebody
change
said
your
something
mind.
mean, then you're not
Like,
really changing
look,
your mind for a
it's-
good reason. You
okay,
didn't even
so
change
we're
your
talking
mind.
about
You
me.
just put
I
something
like
mean
to-
and you want to be
I
nicer.
will-
And we
that's
knew
the
this about
point.
Sprout
To the
already. We
point.
already
Just
knew
real quick,
Sprout was the
we're
least
talking
right-wing
about
right
me.
winger on fucking Twitch.
To the
Well, he's
point.
not right wing.
We're talking
To
about
the
me. Am I
point
allowed
of
to
the
talk, or
panel.
are you both going to argue about
To the
me?
point of the panel. For those of you who are
Because people
scared
have
that
been
the
arguing
government
about me,
does
so I'm
things
going to
like
talk,
this,
actually.
those of you who are scared that
yeah.
the government is
Yeah,
going to
they're
be able to track
currently
you
arguing about you.
online with laws like these, I got some news for you, gang. They can see whatever the fuck they want that you're doing online right now. They don't need these laws. They've been doing it for a long, long time, and they'll continue to do it. This laws ain't going
And
to
they should
make
be
it
mandatory
any easier
reporters.
for them to do that. What's going to happen is parents, right? Parents who might want to keep track of what their child does online, which they should as responsible parents, will have another tool that allows them to do so. That's a good thing. Like, look, we can look at the devil is in the details. And if the bill itself comes out and it's got some dog shit wording and things like that, we could take another crack at it, right? But conceptually, the idea that the companies should provide access to let parents see what their children do online, that's a great thing. I stand that. That's a good thing. Do you disagree, Prime?
No, I'm like shocked by like the
Doobie's picture.
nightmare feel.
Oh man, I can't speak to that. But that's what I had to say.
Let's go to Al, then Sprout. Sprout has a lot
Alright.
to respond to, but Al, please.
Because it seems like me and Fabian, because we're a bit more, I guess, taking the more, I guess you can say, libertarian position on this
Sociopath.
issue. I think we're getting a lot of heat here. I think we're getting a lot of
Libertarian
heat
as
here. We're
fuck,
getting a lot
The
of
libertarian position. Your kid died and they deserved it. I'm a
Listen, no, I didn't say that. I never said the kids deserved it. That's why I said I'm being attacked because
The
I
parents
think we're
deserve
being
to have the
misconstrued.
kids
We never said that the kids deserved it. It is, yes, because it's a tragedy when a kid dies. No one is saying that we like kids dying. We want kids to not die, obviously. But we're saying that there is a certain lack, a certain failure, a certain dropping of the ball that obviously had to have taken place for these kids to be allowed to somehow stumble themselves onto Snapchat, stumble themselves onto the wrong pages where they got into a drug deal, went out,
stumble onto
purchased said
Snapchat, one of
drugs,
the biggest.
Okay then. So parents should have been knowing that this is Snapchat is a site that kids can go on, and then these kids somehow, I guess apparently as the story goes, stumbled onto the wrong site, wrong pages on Snapchat, got into a drug deal.
You don't
and the
stumble on the
deal
pages on
was
Snapchat.
bad.
There's no pages on Snapchat.
Right.
You don't
Okay, then
find-
how
you
do
don't
these
just
kids
walk
get
the
that?
pages.
How old
They
is
talk-
everyone
they
here?
send
Yeah, you
pictures
have-
of people. They send text to people that disappear instantaneously or after 24 hours.
You know, so
What
this
you
is
have
this
is
all
a bunch of
lies
How
and
do
drug
coke.
kids get to a drug deal? How do these
This
kids
is-
get to a drug deal then?
No, this
How
is
do
all
these drug
this
dealers
is
get
all
drug deal?
Okay,
This
so
is
here's
all
how it
lies
works.
and
If
coke.
you really want to know how it works and you live in a big city, you can go around. You can find little stickers, you can find little post-it notes with like UR or little QR codes. You can scan that, and people are just selling that shit everywhere. The
And the
problem
idea that
is
these only happen
that
at night,
these companies
too.
aren't
And so
being
as
held
a-
accountable for just letting that shit happen. It's even more annoying considering these companies have access to all the information that's being sent through them, but they're not doing anything about it.
No, this is all lies and coke.
now-
Right?
I-
No, I'm gonna
let's-
respond.
Let's
I get to defend
Parent,
myself.
wow, like I'm saying, let me finish. Let me
So
finish. 'cause I didn't even get to finish my point.
Okay,
I didn't even finish my point.
Okay, I'll finish up your thing. Then we're gonna go to the Sprout. Then we'll go to our friend Scott.
Okay, I'm not someone who's on Snapchat, so obviously, because I don't know the inner workings, I can understand how, like these parents that don't know the inner workings, you know, they could drop the ball. But that doesn't excuse the fact that there is an objective factor. They dropped the ball somehow, way or another. I'm not sure how Snapchat works, but somehow these kids accessed the drug deal via Snapchat, got some drugs, died from a fentanyl overdose, and now they're in the ground dead. So obviously something happened that was bad. Horrible tragedy. Kids died. Like I said, always bad when kids die. They shouldn't be dying from drug overdoses. We all agree about this. But I think that parents need to figure out how to keep their children safe. And I think that we shouldn't be trying to go for the technocratic route of just, you know, let's like get some like backdoor access here and there, and let's like have people spy on everybody out in the open and craziness. I think there's other ways to do this, like in the 80s, the stranger danger. I think we can do something like that. We can have some PSAs. We can actually have some
Do you
town
think
hall
that works?
meetings where we learn about how to Snapchat. Well, I mean, people stopped after Stranger Danger. People were less likely to get snapped up by the local pedophile in the candy van.
Yeah,
now,
but stranger
didn't they?
danger
And
is
now it
easy
worked.
when you can see your kids. It's not easy when your kid is in your house doing all of these things.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need to have a better eye on your kid. You have to like be careful with your
You gotta
kid.
think about
'cause,
like
I
any
mean, I don't
any
think
You know what would
computer,
be
any
helpful to
phone,
have a better eye
any
on your kid?
smartphone,
A
any
program that
computer
let
that
you
these
see
kids
what
have
they were
access
doing
to
online.
is a
Right.
portal to drug dealers and pedophiles. Like they're carrying a literal portal to drug dealers and pedophiles in their fucking pocket.
Oh man,
these
that's one
parents
hell-
should be aware of that and like not let them have phones.
But
until
you,
they're
sorry,
responsible.
They are aware of it, but how
you
can they
literally
stop?
you literally weren't aware of how Snapchat works, right? So you would have failed this test easily, right? Like you didn't
maybe
know,
you'd be dead.
right?
No,
Like,
I would've- No.
Dead, raped, and murdered.
No.
If
because
you were a
weren't
parent,
paying attention.
right now, your kid would be in a
No.
bathroom overdosing and their veins exploding. And then you
And
would
if-
be like, well, I guess I can only blame myself,
No, I
and
wouldn't.
everyone should just blame
if-
me for this.
No,
And
I
if you
wouldn't.
had, and if you had a
No, I
child
wouldn't,
right
because
now,
I have an eye
and if
on
you
my
had a
kids. I
child
wouldn't
right
let them.
now,
I wouldn't let
and if
them
you
go
had a
into drug
child
deals.
right now, by the time they're
wouldn't
old
let them
enough
use
to
the
use
bathroom?
social media, there'd be something else that you had no fucking clue of. Right? So let's go to our friend Sprouticus and then Scott.
So a lot of people are mad that I changed my position. I was going to argue no, simply on the basis that it can help parents that are abusing their children. I was going to argue no
Straight up.
simply on that basis. And if that basis got fixed, then my answer would be yes. I then decided to switch it, right, to argue yes, but then I was also going to argue behind it, but this is an issue with it. This is something we have to fix, because this very well can result in parents being more
He's
abusive
stumbling
to their
so
kids
much.
and the kids having less people to reach out to.
He's
The
stumbling
kids
so
are gonna have
much.
less people to reach out to because
If these
they're
parents
gonna,
wanted
there's
to,
a
like,
back there's a
abuse
back
their
there's a
kids, why
back
wouldn't they
door to
just
my
take the phone
phone.
away?
I'm sorry,
If the parents wanted to abuse their kids, why wouldn't they just take the phone away if like that's a concern?
because there's rules in abusive households, and typically the parents trust the kids to stay quiet.
Oh, okay. That makes sense, I guess. It doesn't make fucking sense. I was
I
really
Okay,
think the only way
So
then the
let
only
me
way to deal with your problem would be to have the companies held accountable instead of just giving the data to parents, right? We should just hold these companies accountable and force them to deal
Yes.
with these problems when
Yeah,
they arise.
I agree.
They should be
Hold the
mandatory
companies
reporters.
accountable.
All right,
Yeah, hold the
so
companies
let me
accountable.
let me
They
let me
hold
explain to you
them.
why you guys are all fucking coping. Number one, the idea that first of all, again, Samuel and Laura, fuck them, right? And the reason I'm saying fuck them is not because they lost a fucking kid. I'm saying fuck them because they're using that trauma as a means to try and blame companies because they weren't active in their child's life. They're trying to blame Snapchat like it's somehow fucking Snapchat's fault that their kid died of heroin. It's not fucking Snapchat's fault. It's society, it's whatever mental illness they had, it's their active role as parents, etc., etc. Now, here's the thing, is these bills are fucking lies. And let me explain to you why these bills are fucking lies. Sammy's Law doesn't need to exist in any way, shape, or form. Because for $14 a fucking month, you can get Bark. Bark works with Snapchat, and Bark works with fucking Discord. And it uses keyword searches and advanced AI, as well as location tracking. And for $14 a month, you can see a screen recorder using AI to see every message, every Discord message, every single solitary Snapchat, even if it's deleted, even if it's just thrown because it's tracking what's on the screen, as well as your kid's fucking current location. If you don't have $14 a month to be a good to fucking make sure that you know what your kids are doing online, and because you're not involved because you're too busy at work, then you probably shouldn't have kids. Like, there's a serious problem if you can't afford $14 a month to know what your kids are doing online.
Why are we offloading the cost onto the parents when the company should be?
With this fucking.
Least...
Because if you offload the cost, because if you offload the fucking cost, because if you offload the costs onto fucking companies and you make them responsible for legal action, what you do is you further create a monopoly on who can and can't make a social media platform in the country, which makes it further easier to control by law enforcement, further easier to control by individuals that want to engage in censorious activities online, and destroy freedom of speech.
Kids.
Yeah. Think of the kids is always the fucking thing that they say before they bring in authoritarian bullshit. You fucking tyrannical monster.
I feel so bad for these companies. I feel so horrible for these companies as they're making millions off of the backs of kids that are getting raped, kids that are dying of overdoses. Considering so many more kids are dying like recently.
Think of the kids. Think of the kids.
This is actually
for overdoses.
No, you're fucking disgusting.
This is a higher rate, but I guess your opinion is just these kids are just dying because the parents have gotten worse. The quality of parents have gotten worse. Not so many other factors that, get Bark. Like when the internet was coming out and there was like 15 other different surveillance things you could get for your kids, but all of those had workarounds and everybody kept working around them as time went on and kids still kept finding workarounds. Because guess what? It's fun to break the rules.
This is the dumbest fucking argument ever. First you say that I just hate kids or that I think parents are getting worse. I recognize that social media is dangerous. That's why I said don't let your kid have Snapchat because it's for dick pics.
I don't think you hate kids.
Pics.
I think you just hold kids at lesser value than some random right you made up.
Some random right I've made up. That's
he likes companies more than children.
Rights.
That's straight
up.
I
like having competition
by him putting children in danger.
Yeah,
I'm not putting fucking children in danger. You numbnuts. You think the fucking government is going to create a program that's so fucking amazing that's actually going to save all of these fucking children? No, it's going to be a shitty fucking program. And then there's just going to be less fucking...
the companies liable for creating it.
Right, and then we're not going to have freedom of speech, you dumb fuck.
Yes, we are.
Let's go to our friend Lactoid.
Actually, no, it doesn't even make sense.
Okay.
It doesn't even make sense.
So
your
you don't even know what
literally
Snapchat
just
is.
think of the kids.
Wait, hold on. So, okay.
You sound like a fucking 1990s Republican. Like,
Fabian's position is okay. Scott's position is obviously not. I care about companies more than children. Let's be fair. Okay, there is like a valid criticism here, and I think that he did maybe a service. I've never heard of Bark before. I know there's some surveillance programs. I didn't know that they applied to Snapchat and Discord on your phone and stuff. So I think it's good. Maybe we should get the word out there to like these options do right. So, but these options but before I read the article, I never heard of what Bark was, right? And so like these services can be helpful and we should shout those out. We should talk about it. But this idea that first of all, I don't think that in order to be a good parent, you have to be monitoring your children at all times. I just don't think it's the case, right? In fact, we're monitoring our children more now than ever. And the other thing is, if the goal here is to save children, we also should recognize that there are going to be irresponsible people who have kids. And there's going to be children with irresponsible parents. I agree. These companies, maybe not hold them like legally liable for some of this shit, like to the extent where we bankrupt them or whatever. But there should be like rules that come in that say, hey, look, if you're under 18, you should be in a different cohort than the people over 18. And this kid room, like this kiddie's room, like that's monitored. Okay, that makes sense to me, right? You have like the unmonitored, you can prove you're over 18. Okay, now you get this act service, right? But if you're under 18, if you can't prove you're over 18, you should be in a different cohort. You should be separated from adults who could manipulate you.
We grow into our rights. We grow into our rights.
How do you do
It's
that?
Standard conceptual, like legally, right? It's culturally. We grow into our rights. We do not get the same rights to a 5-year-old that we give to an 18-year-old person, and for
all children
reasons.
All children. Listen,
we don't do this.
Real quick,
we need to give parents the tools. We need to give parents the tools in order to better take care of their kids, and this is a good, necessary tool. Kids, like, look.
The tool already exists. Why do you need a law?
This. Parents cannot.
They can't afford $14 a month.
Cannot.
What are you advocating? Like what you're advocating for already exists.
It's ridiculous.
And instead, what you don't realize that you're advocating for is bills like chats that require government surveillance and backdoor access.
We ain't talking about that bill. That bill wasn't in the prompt. That bill wasn't being discussed.
Yes, it is. It's literally in the article that was sent to you. You can't fucking read.
Doesn't like fucking support your point. That's the only reason you're doing it.
It's literally in the article that was sent to you. First of all. Second of all, the Debbie Wasserman Schultz bill, Sammy's Law, isn't written. So I can't see that fucking bill. I'm talking about a bill I can read. Third of all, these programs already exist. And you have to ask yourself, why are they making it a law that the social media platforms must institute something that already exists?
And their responsibility.
Something already exists for $14 a month. And what you're advocating for is legislation that requires something that already exists.
Damn right I am.
So you have to ask yourself, why is that doing that?
Keeping a company that fails society accountable, yes, that's what we're asking for. Social media has failed society on more than 5 counts. Okay, keeping social media keeping social media like accountable to what they've done, to how they fucked up, is more than okay in my book.
Spartacus, have you ever heard of chilling effect doctrine?
This is not the chilling effect doctrine, but keep trying.
So how is it not a chilling effect if we have to institute ID laws like Lactoid is advocating, right? Where individuals can no longer have anonymity because you have to prove you're over 18 in order to engage with one section and the other. That would absolutely institute a chilling effect.
Do you not think we should have age gates on things? Do you think you should let children access pornography?
What prove that you're 18. Stupid fucking
do you think
world.
Are you advocating right now that children should be able to access pornography?
Obviously I'm not.
Then obviously you're okay with age gates in certain circumstances.
No, I'm not okay with the government requiring that social media platforms require that you have IDs and they track who you are.
The government requiring pornographic companies and pornographic platforms. Are you okay with the government requiring them to age gate the material from children?
No, not at all.
Wow. Okay. Well, you can.
Why would I be okay with that? That's insane. You're a fucking parent. Be one.
Let's go.
So you want kids to watch porn?
What is this, like a panel full of Kathy Newmans and I'm the only fucking
no.
Jordan?
It's not even just that. It's worse.
Yeah,
wait. It's worse than that. It's worse than that because recently Pornhub had a big problem where they had a lot of people who were underage creating content or having content of them created. Why wouldn't we just have these people actually have to show their IDs before they can get on these sites, before they can make content, before they can do any of these things on every site? And if sites don't have these people go through the process of giving IDs, then they should be held accountable.
Because I don't want this state abusing its ability to fucking track people and their IDs and having access to these things.
Lactoid, you want to say something? We'll give that to you. Then Doobie, I think, wanted to break in as well.
Yeah, the actual system. I've thought about like pragmatically how we would do this system. I would require that companies and internet providers have age gates, and I would want to do it in a way that would allow people to remain anonymous to the sites that they go on. One idea I had is that you implement a program through like your like whoever issues your driver's license, so like the Department of Transportation for your particular state, they in addition to giving you like the information from your driver's license, they also have a portal on their website that you enter in your information, and you get like a key. They give you like a CD key or something, but then you
Like
type in
ID
this
me.
whole real quick. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Like ID me.
Yeah, and you put that key into like the websites, and it doesn't do anything besides confirm your age. And the only people you're giving the information to is the DOT, who, if you have a driver's license, already has your information to begin with. So then you enter in that key, you get access to the site that may have drug trading, may have pornography, may have shit that we just don't want kids to get into. We card people going into bars. We card people going into strip clubs.
That's
like,
not
why
what you're doing. What you're doing is advocating for mass collection of metadata. What you're doing is tying IDs to social media posts and to certain and creating metadata. You're making it easier.
No, wait. You're not tying
You're making
the
it
ID.
easy.
You're not tying the ID to a social media post. What you're doing is having a random key generated by the DOT. You type in that random key into the website. The random key goes through, and it's like, yes, this is a valid key. And then, bada bing, bada boom, it's verified.
You think the state isn't going to use that as a means of being able to track what everyone does on social media to a higher extent?
It's the DOT. They already have that information.
Maybe your problem is you should just work
you have
to
a
get
driver's
a state
license,
that you can trust a little bit more.
No, hold on. This is not about trusting the state. This is not about trusting the state. You're giving your information.
But that's his whole problem.
But you're advocating real ID for fucking social media.
No, I'm not advocating. Stop. Don't. I criticized other people for strawmanning you. Okay, this is not what I'm advocating for. Okay, you're only giving your information to the DOT. They already have your information. They give you an anonymous key that you can enter into websites that simply confirms you're over 18. That's the policy I would support. And if you're not over 18, you don't get to get into any pornography sites. You don't get like Discord and Snapchat and shit. These should be age gapped where like you have a kids section and like an adult section. Like we do this at bars. We don't let underage people go into bars or strip clubs. Why is it that I can't get into a strip club to see titties, but I can at any age type in like hardcore pornography and no one's gonna stop me?
So hold on.
Let
me try to help you out.
No, my parents are dead. Nobody cares.
I think.
Well, then this bill doesn't matter because it only gives you.
Yes.
That's a
Scott's
criticism
trying
of the
to
bill.
say that. And if I'm wrong, Scott, you can correct me. But like I think at least part of what you're trying to say is that like we can't trust the government to simply anonymize these things or keep it anonymous, right? You can start with it being anonymous, but like the metadata that is created, like we can see that a bad actor could come in and somehow undermine the system, right? That these systems aren't foolproof, and you're generating metadata that might be able to use against.
Part of my argument, right? Part of my argument.
Not with a randomized key inside a blockchain.
The randomized keys don't create metadata. What do you mean by metadata?
The idea that you would even begin to trust the government to give anonymous keys.
Tracking our data. They're doing it now.
Privacy is literally in the prompt.
That's a longer conversation about like exactly how to do
I'm not
this,
going
right?
off topic here. Like
No, I didn't think you are. No, I'm not.
I'm talking to Wick.
Okay, fair enough. And Lactoid, you said and the kids section thing. The kids section thing doesn't actually solve anything, right? Like because then like if you are a predator, you'll just say, "Oh yeah, I'm a kid too."
No, but you don't hold on. Like you don't get access. Like, okay, yeah, I guess you would have to have some circumstance where you can verify that you're under 18 too. But like, I don't know, maybe we'd figure out some system for that where like in high school or like any kind of like, you know, if you're under 18, you can like go to the DOT and like get this website too or something along those lines. I don't know. But
good luck. You're going to be putting your social security number into this shit.
It's the DOT. They have your social security number.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're not good. Like
the government's going to track me as they track you on your iPhone.
Like they're not going to create an anonymous generated thing at the DOT. Like that's just not, like you're living in a pipe dream.
That's what I support.
Because this already like the programs that are necessary that these bills supposedly advocate already exist for $14 a month. And what this is really going to do is this is going to put liability on social media companies, right? for what occurs on those platforms,
Good.
and then what that's going to happen.
They should be liable for what happens on their platform. It's their platform. They're making money off the people on it. Why aren't they responsible for what happens to the people who are on their
Look,
platform?
no one
Most
is
of these
advocating here.
platforms-
No one-
most
just
of
real
these
quick, no one
platforms-
is advocating
most
that
of
they
these
should be held
platforms-
completely like 100%
That's not
liable for
true.
every
You don't-
single
you don't
thing, right?
understand that.
Like,
it's
look,
so-
there's obviously some levels that we give them, but when it comes down to it, they should be held more responsible than they are now
that's like-
because they are
But you
failing
don't
us.
understand. But
be
think
familiar-
about the consequences of what you're saying. The moment that you say that companies can be sued because of anonymous communications between people, right, that are happening like millions of times an hour, right, and that you can sue them for the consequences
We're
of what
not
occurred.
talking about just people talking. We're talking about people dying, kids
Oh,
dying. And yes,
Okay,
the
but the
getting
moment, the moment you-
Scott, you'll have more time. I promise. You have more time. And I also just want to say, for the record, I'm actually closer to Scott on this issue. And so like, he's a democratic socialist, and I'm backing his.
I'm just
point.
saying real quick.
The
consequence-
grows.
The consequence of that is that social media companies are now going to have to be so profitable that they can deal with the insurance and or all of the additional like funds that are going to be required to settle out of court on lawsuits or to go to court. And once
that's
you start
dirty.
doing that, what you do is you have this effect on free speech online where so many other companies are not going to be able to compete with these large corporations.
No,
They
you have an
want
effect
this
on
shit.
minors.
This is what they want.
Minors.
This
I
is
want
what
to hear
they're
from Dibby.
advocating
I want to hear
for.
from Dibby. I want to hear from Dibby. I want to hear from Dibby. So we're waiting.
So Scott, do you think this bark thing is a good idea? You know, that parents that have young children on social media should have this app?
I mean, I think like it's a better idea than not monitoring your kid at all. Ultimately, I think you should trust and respect your kids, and they should and have a good relationship with them. And if you can't, you should fucking grab their goddamn phone and learn what the fuck you're doing and make sure they don't have these apps on their phone. Like
Okay.
they're kids.
But given that you know it's pretty easy to like download an app and then delete it before your mom sees, right? Like I think it's fine to say that, hey, if you're a parent concerned about this,
yeah, there
it's
will always be
probably a good idea.
workarounds, government
Yeah, for you to have
secured
this,
or not.
for you to have this app on your phone, right? So, and given the features of this app, I think you said were like a good idea, or like were would be useful to these parents. What's the issue with requiring those features to be put in place in these apps, and giving parents a way to track their
I just
children,
explained it
maybe
because
access
of
to
the
the data?
because the financial burden prices people out of the market from being able to create free speech alternatives. It has a chilling effect on the ability once you can create an oligopoly of social media companies and other people have to have massive amounts of capital in order.
You're just making shit up.
Let him finish. Let him.
No, like if you have to have the ability to launch in order to launch now, right? Like you have to have a place. You have to have servers. You have to have like you have. It's already expensive to get into this market, but now you're adding the additional fact that like you might get sued for $15 million if you miss some fucking like drug dealer selling drugs to a kid and then that kid dies. And so once you add in those additional costs, only corporations with large amounts of capital will be able to absorb those costs.
Okay, let's say you don't go to that extreme, and the place you go is, hey, to have this app that children have access
It's like
to.
basic economics. Like this is
You
just
need to-
regulatory
you need to-
capture.
these children need to be able to prove that they are that they're adults, and if they're not adults, then they get access to a separate part of the app that is meant for children, that is more monitored, that parents can have access to. Right? That doesn't seem like it's a huge fucking barrier to entry.
It's
right,
not.
for these app developers. But
Right,
you
but that's
keep
a
saying, hey,
separate
well, the
thing, but we
government
can
the government
engage
is
with
going to have access to that data, and they're going to abuse it somehow. What's the fear? Like, what's the government going to do with that data?
So you're saying you want me to specifically engage with the metadata point as opposed to the other point. So the metadata
I'm just
point,
like, what's the
right.
fear of them having that data?
Like the fears that you can have with the metadata is that first of all, there's automatically a chilling effect the moment you realize that you're no longer anonymous. The moment you realize that the state is immediately able to tie your ID, which I understand Lactoid is engaging in. What if we had a bill?
Knows who you are? You don't think the state can watch this video and be like, yeah, that's that fucker down the street over there? Like, you don't think the state can figure this shit out?
I hate that.
Let's let him finish. And then
Right,
we gotta go FK and Wick.
there's a massive difference between the state having the resources to track you down and FISA courts that are all secret and other things that I have problems with also, right? There's a massive difference between that and then creating capture systems that create metadata that can be put into programs that can simultaneously track everybody even more easily. And people know that immediately that everything they post on social media is automatically tied and tracked by the government. Now, Lactoid is offering something
it's a
else.
randomized key.
Okay,
Right.
well, hold on.
Lactoid is
but it doesn't
offering
matter.
that, but there's no
Hold on,
bill.
I'm giving you that
offering
the government is going to know, right? I agree that the government's probably going to know, right? Like, wouldn't matter what the anonymized key is. They're probably going to have some way to figure out who's who. Again, so you lay out, hey, they're going to have access to this stuff. There's a chilling effect. Is the chilling effect really the only thing holding it back? Like, what else is there?
Well, of course, it's the regulatory capture issues that I have a problem with, and the fact that social media are doing this. But the ID thing that Lactoid is putting forward, I don't think that's a bad idea. I just don't ever see that actually coming to fruition from any of these bills, and I don't like and I would watch and track that every step of the way, because I highly doubt, even if they say that's what they're doing, that that's what they're doing. But if they legitimately introduce a bill where you went to the DMV or whatever, right, and then it gave you a randomly generated key that wasn't tied to your ID at all or to your person at all, would there be workarounds? Yes, but there will be workarounds in any system. And would that be like better than our current situation? I would say that it probably is better than our current situation. I just don't ever see that bill, and it's not one of the bills being discussed today.
Hey, Scott, once I get elected, I'll introduce that bill for you.
The issue here is I don't like. So I think I knew where you were
now.
going. Yeah. Wick, I think I know where you're going with this, so I'll just start it off. But the issue is I don't like this being portrayed as like, oh, something slips through the crack and a $14 million lawsuit hits Snapchat because they weren't able to catch something. What we're asking for is these companies should have systems in place where if they start seeing like younger users, their younger like base, doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing, those should be reported. Those should be dealt with. If users are out there selling a lot of drugs on their website or on their media app, you should be charged for that shit. Don't go do this shit in a very public space. And if you are a space that's just not condoning it, but basically condoning it because you're not doing anything.
You should be able to buy and
about it.
sell drugs.
All you're doing,
not to kids.
You should be able to do it in a legal system, right? But where we don't have it legalized and where it's really unregulated and where it's really dangerous, when we're just letting kids hop on these apps, use these apps, and go through the same process that the same adults on these apps can go through, it fucks these kids over. And I'm so sorry that like companies are going to have a higher barrier of entry, but maybe if you're a social media company, you do need this higher barrier of entry.
I'm just curious,
So
and I'll let you pick, FK, just any one that you want in the entire history of the United States. Can you give me a really good example of like government regulation working out well for the people?
Seatbelts.
Seatbelts? Like why couldn't companies have done it? Like why did we need to stop people?
Because
Why
we
did we
decided
need
not
why,
because
why,
no, there
why-
is actually a reason. Companies didn't do it because it wasn't as profitable for them to do it. However, when the government got involved and regulated it, they started having to do it because then they were held liable for people dying if they were doing fucked up jobs on their cars, right?
So was it an increase of deaths that led to it, or was it a change in the culture and activist organizations that changed it? Because they just as easily could have done this via the market.
Did it, Scott?
It was regulation on these companies. Activists,
Scott.
It was a
what's
bunch of
happening
moms
right now.
and
Wait.
activists.
What's happening right now is what happened back then on a different media site, right? Instead of us going to the streets and picketing about how we want seatbelts, we're talking about how we want these regulations for these social media companies on fucking social media companies, and we're hoping that the government will eventually regulate these social media companies.
Right. I mean, like it's interesting. Like you know what I mean. Like so, it was a change in the culture. It was a change in the culture. That's why Volvo. That's why Volvo gave away the patent to the 3-point seatbelt for free.
Okay, let's go.
I wish I could just.
The government didn't make them do that.
Let's go to Wick.
Yes, please.
And then,
okay, so when it comes down to it, like, look, if you die in a car accident, but the car manufacturer did everything by the books and obeyed the regulatory standards, you don't get to sue the car manufacturer. That's not how it works. Just like in this case, if Snapchat or these social media sites had a mechanism in place, right, where they could
that happens all the time.
Specifically, shut up. Where parents could specifically track these things, even if things did fall through the cracks, even if sometimes, they worked around it and got out anyway. Again, this idea that there's going to be this litigation that's going to destroy companies is just a myth. It frankly is.
James River
Like,
Private
when we talk-
Insurance
when we look
Holding
at these
Company
regulations,
had to
like, look,
institute.
we're not talking about 18 and up, right? Like 18 and up is an entirely different ball game. But when it comes to children, when it comes to parents and children, parents not only have the responsibility, but they have the right to look into what their kids are doing. Now, obviously, we're not talking about helicopter parents, and they need to be, wise in this thing. But I guarantee you, parents these days just do not know how to work these things. And if social media companies, if they provided these tools, right, it would not be a huge barrier to the entry. You are catastrophizing this and extrapolating out into detail where I just do not think you know what you're talking about.
So
frankly.
let's ask the lawyer on the panel, right? Let's ask the lawyer. When the government says, like creates a law and then the companies follow that law to the best of their ability and things slip through the cracks, is it real common for judges everywhere to just be like, oh, nope, they're doing great. Like this doesn't have any standing. Like you can't take any case. Or is it more common that these companies have to like settle out of court often to avoid going to court, and frivolous lawsuits happen all the time, and they have to budget a fairly decent amount of money to deal with those lawsuits despite the fact that they're doing the best that they can?
So I would say the second is close. What really happens is, yeah, I mean, you gotta get like, as long as the damages are high enough, you get a bullshit lawsuit. You can. I'll be honest. You can find a lawyer who will file really any kind of lawsuit,
right?
And yeah, technically you're not supposed to, but people do it all the time. You basically just have to find like some conceivable reason, and
Snapchat ambulance chasers. Let's
lawyers go. Lawyers can get creative, and their insurance company is going to be the one that's probably going to be settling out most of these claims. Now, does this translate into higher prices because, well, now they got to pay a higher premium because their insurance company has to keep paying out claims? Yeah, this is a real risk, and this is why like I am concerned about like these things settle, and you do often have times where, like, I can think of a couple cases right now where I don't think any reasonable person here on this panel would think that like the company did anything wrong or like didn't obey the law. But if you get a sympathetic enough plaintiff, you're looking at some real money.
And the thing is, with social media companies in competition
but what he
all
just
the time,
said doesn't he just said it right at the beginning. Anyone can file any bullshit claim for any reason whatsoever. It doesn't matter whether we change these things.
Yeah, that was
whether
my
we
argument.
Keep these things the same. It doesn't matter. That cost isn't it's just overblown. It really is.
The moment that you add liability and you remove the lower courts,
there's liability right now.
When you remove the lower,
oh my God,
courts
you're not
and the
even
protection.
paying attention to reality right now.
Oh my God!
All right, here's what you do. Wick, to give you something. Here's what you could say, Wick. You could say, yes, we should put liability, but we should have tort reform in this particular category where we have set limits on the damages. So you can't have crazy verdicts. You are legislatively restricted to certain caps on damages. You could argue
no problem with that. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's bog down our bureaucracy even more with more layers of government to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
I'm just giving you shit, Scott.
Okay. So, I'm pretty much, technologically closer to a boomer than a millennial. And that's a bit sad. But I think that doesn't mean that I'm totally...
We can tell from your camera, Isle of Owls.
From talking about... I know. So I think we can talk about... But I don't think that fully disqualifies me from being able to talk about this issue. And talk about it, I will. Because I think that all of us on this panel are 19 and up, I think, of age. At least 19 years old, everyone on this panel, right? Which means that we've all had parents... Okay, so we've all had parents. No, so I'm saying that we all had parents, or at least one parent, competent enough to keep us from going a drug overdose and dying somewhere. So I think
my parents were incompetent with technology.
You're dead.
My
You're
parents
dead.
were
You're dead.
absolutely
It's called
dead.
making
You're dead.
smart
incompetent with
decisions.
technology.
No,
You're dead
don't
now.
say you're dead. It's called
You're
making
dead.
smart
You're dead.
decisions. No,
No.
stop.
My parents
Kyle.
were
You're dead.
absolutely
No.
incompetent with
I'm speaking to the
technology.
ghost.
When
I'm
I was a
speaking to
little
the
kid,
ghost.
I could have gotten
I'm
molested
speaking
very.
to the ghost. I'm speaking to the ghost. I'm speaking to the ghost. Okay, I'm speaking to ghost apparently because
You're speaking
all
to
these
ghosts?
people here.
Because we're white.
I'm
So,
speaking to
so
ghosts.
wait, so wait,
I just said all these
you're
people
telling
are
me-
dead.
parents-
All
you're
these
telling
my
me there's
parents
no
can
way
look
for
at-
a kid
Your
to not take drugs.
Because the parents allowed you to have an overdose of drugs and die.
So
Apparently.
you're,
So
so
the
you're
argument
telling me
is 'cause
there's
we
no way a
survived?
Bro.
kid can decide to not
No,
take drugs.
you're an
by
idiot.
himself?
This is the This is the dumbest thing you could have said. My parents were immigrants from another country. They were technologically, they were illiterate. They did not know what the fuck. I could have gone online. I could have gone online and gotten molested 50 times, and they would have never found out if I never told them. They don't have any clue with what the internet was, how it works, what I did on it, whatever. They don't even know what I'm doing on it nowadays, right? Like, I don't know what this idea is that, like, oh, every parent should be competent enough. You're right. They're competent enough. They're competent enough if they see you doing something actively, right? But if you're sitting on your phone and you're texting somebody, if you're sitting on your phone and you're messaging with somebody, you're doing whatever you're doing, if you go to your room and you're calling with people on Discord, whatever you're doing online, they don't have access to you unless you think that the job of a parent is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep their eyes directly locked on you.
You are getting involved
I
in
think that
Twitch
is
debate
that's
battles,
the
so clearly
point
your parents
where you
fed
go.
you, right?
The only question here seems to be how do we limit this to children? That seems to be the only disagreement between everybody, because like I think everybody here, yes, this shouldn't apply to adults, and then the only disagreement is like they are concerned it will apply to adults. So like is there like some kind of thing we can think about here? The craft.
That's kind of a tech issue, right? Like that is a concern, right? Like I wouldn't want my parents today to be looking at what and trust me, my parents probably don't want to see what I'm doing on social media, right? Like if they tune into this show right now, they'd be appalled. I'm speaking to leftists. What? Weird.
We know that's not what you're talking
right?
about.
Like
My parents would be ashamed that I was talking to right wingers.
True. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's a concern, right?
My parents are ashamed I'm an end
I
cap.
want to be very clear that there are
all know that.
issues that we need to look at when it comes to this. That it's not all roses. It's not a simple thing, but conceptually, it is very important to give parents more tools, not less, when it comes to parenting. We need to give them more resources, not less. We need to hold
tool would you
companies
give
more
them?
responsible, not less.
What tool would you give them that has been that is put forward in any of the bills?
After this, we got to go to a tie. He's been waiting patiently.
Okay, sure. But again, some kind of backdoor, some kind of way, a notification program that you can track all their social media on. Those type of things. Those are great ideas.
Yeah, they already exist. Like, what tool would you do that doesn't
Okay, but
exist?
what we would do, what laws like this would
Okay.
do, would say if that the social media company that lets children download their stuff, if they do not provide it to the parents in a reasonable manner, then they can be held liable. And I think that is a
you're
good
not
thing.
you're not advocating any tool. You said we should give parents tools,
Yo,
but you're
I'm
not
I'm
advocating
not a
any
programmer,
tool
dude.
that
I don't
doesn't
know
already
the
exist.
exact tool, right? But like if
But you've yet to advocate
what I
one.
am advocating for, I did specifically. I
that
did a
already
program-
exists.
Maybe if you listen, you can understand a program that the companies have to, are obligated to, make available to parents.
That's not a new tool. That's a financial and legal
What?
obligation.
Well,
That's not a tool.
let me ask you this. What social media company right now is legally obligated to do this when it comes to children?
Do what specifically? Because there are legal obligations.
To provide parents with access in some way, shape, or form to their
None
child's
as of yet.
activities. And that's what I'd like to change. You asked me what I'm advocating for. That's what I'm advocating.
Well,
for.
I
want
said
to
what
change
tool,
that.
and you didn't bring any tools.
What are you talking about? You're obviously not listening to me. I said a specific tool, a program, some sort of access to an app, a meta app, perhaps
already
that allows them
exists.
to track.
That's not a new tool. That already
You
exists.
aren't asking for me to advocate for a new tool. I'm
But
advocating
you said
the change.
we need to get
I'm
we need to
advocating
give
is
parents
for
these tools.
social
So-
media companies to be legally obligated to provide access to these
Right.
tools to the parents.
So what you're advocating is not any tools that don't already exist and aren't affordable, but instead to shift legal and financial obligation onto these companies. which
Yeah.
is the whole problem that I have.
Well, you may have a problem with it, but again, when done in a reasonable manner with limits and the scope of these
Just saying
things,
the word
I think it's
reasonable
a
doesn't
net
magically
good.
make it
will,
good.
It will reduce harm,
Wait,
and it
do
will
companies
also
not have-
increase parents' ability, the parents' freedom to govern their children.
It's not
Let's
freedom.
go to,
Wait, but
let's
the,
go-
the other issue,
let's go to
the issue here is even bigger, because you're
Oh,
acting
sorry,
like
sorry,
companies
let's go
have
to our
no
Ty.
responsibility
Hold
to
on,
anybody.
Let's go to our friend Ty, who's been waiting
Hey.
by patient.
I appreciate it. Just two quick things. Number one is that when Fabian said he was going to channel his inner fanatic today, I didn't believe him. So, like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I've got a problem.
Want all the
both sides
smoke.
of this.
Sorry.
I got a problem on both sides of this issue. I actually kind of get where Fabian's going in the regards that, like, hey, you know, parents do have to be front and center on this one. But the problem is, like, there's so many outs with social media in the regards that even if you mandate a backdoor, even if you try, you know, tell parents, hey, do better, is that literally, if I have a cell phone, I can make an account on anything with an email address, and you can sign up for an email address in under 5 minutes. So the problem that I keep having is that the rampant ambiguity in which people have access to the internet, particularly even children, is almost nigh impossible to deal with. And, you know, great, you can say, all right, let's put limitations on the corporation to make sure that they don't have kids on it, but I want to know, how do you do that? Are you going to verify where it's like, hey, you have to take a photo of yourself and verify who you are? Because, like, that gets a little sketchy. But also on the top of it is that even if you just do the whole, I'm going to do an age check or whatever else, like, it's so easy to lie. I think I've got an account still that's, like, you know, predated 10 years because I've had it so long. The problem is I just don't see where the rubber hits the road on anyone's side, honestly. So feel free to defend that.
Tiberius D, I'm like, and just a quick question, like, do you think, right, that the government is going to institute a program that is better than what is already occurring? That the government's going to fix this
I think
with
the
the
government-
regulation?
I think
I'm
the
just
government
curious.
is supposed to represent the interests of the people. When these companies are out here and they have no liability to anybody else except for whatever profit they're going to make, and the government can't step in and be like, listen, our society is dealing with dealing with the ramifications of you being unchecked, just kind of let out to do whatever you want to do. It's I can't say the word on Twitch. It's dumb as shit, right? It's stupid. We need to have the government step in, whether it be implement some type of rule where it's like, listen, you have to be tracking what's going on, especially if it's amongst, like I said, your younger users. If you start seeing red flags pop up, whether it's through like a metadata AI system where they can track red flags and say like, if this pops up on like younger users' pages, then we could track them. Personally, I think it should also be for older users. As long as I trust the government, I think they should have the ability to see what we're doing. If we're being problematic in the country, if they have enough reason to suspect us, then they could probably go a little deeper.
So
They need a warrant then.
so FK, you believe that the government regulation, right, will be better than the current program and will fix the problem of inactive parents?
Well, the current program has kind of just let things happen.
Well, no, like the problem is that you like you're giving.
What's the
tools
current
to
program?
parents.
What do you think the current program is?
The current program is that you have to be an active parent and you have to install third-party apps yourself and make that decision.
But you can't be an infinitely active parent, and the internet continues to
No,
infinitely
but
expand.
is the
infinitely
government going to
find
fix that?
workarounds for every problem? The government says, as a company, that there are problems with you operating as you are without any restrictions. These are some restrictions we're going to put into place if you want to be in this field. These restrictions aren't for the fact that we want it to be harder for you to operate. These are just to mitigate any problems that this company might cause to the rest of society.
Right.
What is
so-
the problem with
so-
saying that as a company you have some obligation to the society around you?
So what
Especially
you're,
if you're
so
profiting
what
off
so
of
what
it.
you're saying is the government isn't going to solve the problem by instituting an app that isn't already available, and it's not going to solve the problem by somehow making parents more engaged.
Not 100%, but it's going to mitigate it.
Well, instead, the way that the government is going to solve the problem is by making these companies financially liable and able to be sued if they don't do some standard of that the state.
Well, to be
puts
fair,
forward.
when you pass a lot of these new regulations, you're going to end up with a lot of frivolous lawsuits, right? The goal is you get past those frivolous lawsuits, things get codified, you decide like, okay, these things were really dumb lawsuits that failed. These things went through. The lawsuits that go through end up changing the way that we function in our society, right? The ones that fail, we look at them and we're like, yeah, those were dumb. Those won't be going through again. And it starts setting precedent for future cases, right? There's a lawyer here. Am I wrong or right on that?
No, I mean,
The concern is that it seems like for stuff to actually change, the bar is so high, because insurance companies are the ones that are paying this out, and people have such like a universal negative opinion about insurance companies that people don't really care if they got to pay out a bunch of money. Now the logical conclusion is, well, if they have to pay out more money, then they're going to charge higher premiums. But a lot of people just can't seem to make the connection, and they're just sort of like, fuck insurance companies, take all their money. You know, I think Scott's got a reasonable concern here when we're talking about putting a bunch of liability in these companies, because at the end of the day, it is going to make the the economic landscape for them a lot more difficult.
Can I ask you a question, Lector?
In ways that maybe we don't necessarily intend.
But before you answer that question, it's even worse than that, though, right? Like, so this thing about like being liable for user-generated content, I believe there's a bill either that's being considered or has already been made into law. I forget what it is, right? They're pushing that. That would destroy social media platforms, at least the way they operate now.
Kids Online Safety Act.
And that the kids, yeah, that sounds familiar.
That's the one.
Okay, so when you have to keep track of everything, right? Well, what they'll do is like, okay, well, we just won't have that user input. For a lot of these sites, people like news sites are closing comment sections because they don't have the manpower to like moderate every single comment that's put on their site and make sure that like no grooming or whatever the fuck is happening there, right? Like they'll just shut it down. I've seen
they won't.
After forum.
That's not what will happen. What will happen is Facebook and like Twitter and like YouTube, owned by Alphabet, will be able to afford that, and then we will no longer have any other social media, and they will control the landscape of acceptable speech online.
It's exactly what I'm saying. So the smaller ones are the ones that get shut down, and the larger ones who can actually afford to do this, right? Now, even the larger ones, right? Like you can.
They want this. They want this because they can increase prices and own the landscape.
No, but this hurts them too. This hurts companies like TikTok.
Even in the comment section, like the YouTube comment section is like, well, legendarily just a toxic place. But would it be better if that YouTube comment section was necessarily censored and they were just putting in?
Well, it is.
If they're putting in random filters and like we've seen that in terms of like YouTube Kids, right? When YouTube started cracking down on the YouTube Kids section, where like people just ended their comment section completely because they couldn't keep track of what was happening on their page. YouTube put it on them, the creator, to keep track of on their page. Like, we're just not going to have one because I might be grooming and I can't keep track of this shit. But yeah, go ahead.
Look, so I want to address that before I ask Lactoi's question, right? Like, this idea, right, that the companies will offload this to the individual users, absolutely, unless the government holds them responsible somehow, right? Unless there's some sort of regulatory kind of thing. Now, look, you are way overblowing the cost of these things if done correctly. Obviously, if it's done poorly, it's going to be shit. But that's with everything, right? If it's done poorly, it's going to be shit. But when it comes to children...
the cost of starting these companies is large.
Well, we're not... Yeah, just starting them up in general is a large ask. But when we look about adding functionality like this, I am not convinced that it's going to be such a premium that it's going to be hard. It's just like requiring car manufacturers to put seat belts. Does it add to the cost? Sure, but not in any kind of real, like, it ain't breaking the bank, let's say that. Now, I do want to ask Lactoid a question, though. Let me see if I can phrase this correctly. So you mentioned like you think Scott has a valid concern when it comes to the liability and things like that, and companies being held responsible financially for the bad actors the bad actions that occur on their platform. Do you not think that at least conceptually there should be some level of responsibility that these companies are held to at all?
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's where it's like it's very difficult because somebody's hot mic.
Sorry, is someone? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like currently right now, if you got a website and like users there are posting like pornographic images of children, right? they have to remove that. And if they refuse to remove it, or they just don't remove it, and it's like their site becomes like a trading post for this stuff, like they will be gone after. Like the government will come after them, right? When you expand this to start including like all sorts of, like, obviously the more you expand this, like they have a financial burden to enforce that as it is. The more you expand this, there's more liability and more of a financial burden the further and further you expand this. And the concern here is, well, if you expand it to the extent that we want to, or you expand it to the point that, you know, perhaps the authors of this bill want to expand it to, you're going to create such a crushing liability landscape for these companies where they're going to have to either disable entire functions, or they're going to have to hire
what the fuck is
entire
the name
squadrons of
like,
people to like
when you have
constantly
like
rummage through
multiple
this stuff to make
servers
sure they're in
individually
constant
hosted that
compliance. And they gotta
connect
pay
in a
for that.
web,
Or
and then if you
they can just
attack
ignore
or
it
take
and they're
down
gonna get
one
sued.
web,
These are all
one
valid
portal,
concerns.
like it
And
just
this is why,
reroutes.
like,
I can't
There's
speak
like
to
two
the
different
intent,
terms
right? I
for it,
can't
and
speak to the
think
intent
the
of
fucking
the
name of it
bill
right now.
authors, right? I don't know them, right? But when it comes to
that's what this shit is really
requiring
designed to
a
protect. I can't
social
remember
media
the
company
fucking
such
name.
as Twitter to allow parents to have some sort of
I think
app
library,
that tracks what their
LBRY
kids
does
post
this.
and to provide that up front, right? I don't see that as adding the level of cost and the level of infrastructure, the level of overhead that
It's
you're
not
painting
peer-to-peer.
here, because it wouldn't like
Yeah,
look,
it's like a
it
mesh
wouldn't require the
network, but
company
there's
to
oth-
go
there's a-
through this, right? The company wouldn't have
Distributed.
to check for these
It's
credits. The company
distributed.
wouldn't have to do it.
It's
All they'd
distributed,
have
and
to
then
do
there's another term.
is provide the parents the ability to do it, which is much less costly.
Wait, that's a separate point, though, right? So what I was responding to is solely the idea of putting the liability on the companies. Okay, if we're talking about just
decentralized,
we can't
right,
like
and then
isolate
distributed
these
architecture.
variables.
but we can isolate the policies, right? Because if we're talking
Decentralized is like
let's
less.
because this bill could be, we're not going to like hold these companies like financially responsible, but we are going to implement a regulation that they have to implement where they have to allow parents to have access to this data. And what Scott's saying is, well, there's already a service for that. That's his response to that.
Yeah, but that doesn't like matter, right? At the end
Why?
of the day, it's like some
Why do we need a
cars
law for something that already exists in the
But
market?
it exists with a private company. So if there is a need there that a private company is filling, this need that they're filling right now is something that the vast majority of our country has. Right, so why not allow the government, which is a vehicle through which we enact exactly these kind of policies to fill needs that we need as a society? Like, why is it there
You're
an
right.
issue with
We
the
should make Starbucks illegal so that like the government can run Starbucks.
Wait, Doobie,
What?
we also need like we all have antivirus software. We all need antivirus software, but the government doesn't like provide us antivirus software. We buy that.
Oh,
We
they
buy the
probably
companies,
should.
and it works.
Hold on.
And it works out so far. Like, why not just
I
simply?
think this is way more pressing than like
better national
antivirus
security.
software. We're
No,
talking
it's-
about children having access to, like I said earlier, basically portals to pedophiles and rapists and murderers and drug dealers on their phone. Like this isn't. There's a pressing need here that you don't get with fucking
Okay.
antivirus software.
Sammy's
Doobie,
law.
they're-
Sammy's
look,
law isn't doing anything. That you can't do
We're
for
not
$14
talking
a month.
specifically about Sammy's
So
law right now.
so if we're talking about Kids Online Safety Act and you're talking about liability, I think I've already proven time and time again why that would be a danger. If you're talking about chats, that bill allows law enforcement backdoor access to fucking everything.
What's wrong with that?
So that they can track all of online activity and see like
Okay.
what apps are using more drug dealing and like the
That,
real.
that sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
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 but
I
if
know.
you're
But
drug
you're a
dealing, you
authoritarian.
should be held accountable.
No, the real thing here, right, is you have to ask yourself, why are these laws coming to fruition, and why do they keep chanting "Think of the kids"? It is such a golden rule of the government. No, it is such a golden. It is such a. 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 It is such a golden rule that when people start screaming, "Think of the kids," and then they start putting out fucking legislation. And the whole argument.
Think of the companies.
I'm not screaming. That's so stupid. They start
No,
saying.
you just said that regulations are going to make
it is
government
such-
control Starbucks.
It is.
That's
Oh my
fucking
god.
dumb.
It is. Oh my
That's
god. You
dumb.
guys literally
Just because
can't
there's
deal with my
regulation.
points.
Just because there's a
No,
food and drug
Scott,
administration.
I'm with you here.
When
right?
it's
Like,
when they start screaming, "Think of the kids," and they start offering solutions that already exist for relatively cheap. And what they want to do is they want to say that the government can step in the role of parents and that's somehow going to fix it, which it isn't. And then what you haven't asked yourself are what are the consequences and what are the real goals here? And the real goal here is to introduce liability and legislation to make things like distributed networks more difficult and illegal. The real goal here is to make sure that the internet is able to be censored by the state and corporations that play the fucking game with them.
The internet is basically controlled by the state.
That's
I don't want to make it worse.
conspiratorial thinking. That's conspiratorial thinking.
It's
Look,
not
we
fucking
have
conspiratorial. It's common fucking
regulations are
sense.
a good
You're
thing.
basically saying if
Regulations, like the
regulators
Food and
think
Drug
about-
just real quick, the
That's
Food
what
and
you're
Drug Administration existing, right, doesn't mean that the government somehow controls Starbucks, even though Starbucks has to meet certain standards. It has to provide a certain level of service. It cannot, just be this Wild West Ancapistan, right? This is all
You're
we're
right.
asking for.
You're
here.
right. We need
This
the
is all
FDA
we're
to commit.
asking for
We
here
need the
is
FDA to
level
make it.
of standards.
We need. You're right.
when it
We
comes
need.
to
Go ahead.
these social media
let's
companies
go-
and children.
You're right.
But,
We
like,
need.
I-
I'll be super quick. You're right. We need the FDA to commit genocide on the gay population in the 90s. We need an FDA to make it illegal to buy European baby formula that's better. We need the FDA to make labeling procedures so we can't buy EpiPens and insulin from other countries where it's cheaper.
sorry,
We need the
companies
FDA to
are
take
gonna have to
hundreds
pay
and
costs
millions
to
of
save the
dollars
children.
and
Won't
bailouts
someone think of the
from
company?
and
Sure,
money
sure.
from
Well, this wasn't
Pfizer
quick.
Corporation.
This wasn't
Those-
quick, but
you-
let's go to Lactoid. Do we have
Genocidal
things afterwards?
organization.
But like I'm with Fabian Liberty. I think like the moment people are start saying just think of the children, something terrible is going to happen. Look at the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. It's exactly that. People think of the children. There's groomers and all that, right? And then we have that kind of disaster. And I think this is something similar. But
Are you for child
Lactoid,
labor
and
law?
then Lactoid didn't do
I've noticed like some of the people on the panel want to like have their cake and eat it too. They've been accusing Scott of
This one is a
conspiratorial
pop.
thinking whenever he brings up like government overreach. But then like when he's talking about government overreach, they're saying, well, the government's looking at all this anyway, right? They're watching everything we're doing anyway. So I guess the question is like, are we being conspiratorial and paranoid about the government watching us all the time? Or are they actually watching us all the time and like all of our paranoias and
His
conspiratorial
claim
things
is
justified?
that there. This is his claim is that.
Hold on,
this is
real quick. I just want to
just-
finish.
if I could-
So there is an absolutely valid claim here of like government overreach. This is why like I want there to be a solution that doesn't involve constant government like searching searching our data or having like potential backdoors where people can search our data, and just have the companies like require age gates that minimize data searching, and then we can avoid the problem overall. I think everything thus far has just been
But
abandoned.
we've already talked about
Why are
it.
you guys so? We give the government the power to kill us.
That doesn't mean we want them to do it more.
And then FK.
Right.
All right. So
Okay, so to be super clear, my position is that the government's doing this and it's a good thing. I want the government to do this. I want them to track where we are. I want them to track drug dealers and pedophiles on these platforms. I think it's totally fine. Right? I think you should be concerned when people start saying, think of the drug dealers, think of the corporations, think of everything but the fucking children that are being victimized on these apps. Right? I think that's the fucking red flag here. It's very strange, I think, that what we're talking about really is something that we should recognize as people who are like online internet people, that hey, the laws in place right now, the laws of yesteryear aren't really keeping up with the technology that's available. Right? We need to adjust, right? And it seems like this is there's a private company out there apparently called Bark that has adjusted, that has found a need that parents have with this developing technology. They've filled that need, and all I'm saying is, hey, that seems like a good idea. They've recognized the need. I want the government to do this instead because I think everybody has this need, and I think it's totally fine for the government to come in, given that they already have our data, and I'm totally okay with it. I'm totally okay with them monitoring my location and whether or not I'm selling child porn or drugs on the internet. I think it's totally fine, and I hope you guys think it's totally fine too. But it seems like what Scott is saying is, hey, fuck, I might want to sell drugs, I might want to trade child porn, and I don't want the government tracking me when I do this. Like, what's the I don't understand, unless you're into that kind of shit. I don't think you are. Like, what's the fucking concern? Yeah, they're gonna watch you watch porn. Okay, who gives a fuck?
The concern is that they're going to like use this for political purposes in the way that more authoritarian governments do.
I just don't think
Yeah,
They already do that. It's not even just the government. We have given so much power to these corporations that go unregulated. When it comes to tracking your data, when it comes to like just fishing basically for any information they want to get on you, these corporations completely unchecked. And in my opinion, right, a government is supposed to represent us as a people. And when these corporations are doing things that are negative to us as a people, the government steps in and goes, hey, we need these problems fixed, right? It doesn't even need to be like a government program that whatever it was called, the app, right? That
Bark.
deals with fucking
Or you could
tracking
use
like what your kids are
Canopy.
doing. Bark.
Same difference.
So with Bark, Canopy, if those things are working well, then the government can also get involved, give them government contracts, and tell companies, listen, these companies are government contracted companies. If you want to be in this field, this is a level that needs to be met at a bare minimum
let's
for
let-
you.
You want if you want to make
Wick
those
and Scott.
companies worse, the best thing you can do is give them a government contract.
We'll go to Wick and Scott, but like, yeah, I think there's a lot of straw manning of Scott's arguments, which is incredible, all right? That we've gotten to
think
this
so.
point. But let's go to Wick.
So to address Lactoi's point, because Lactoi's at least being reasonable here, I think that the reason I can say that yes, this is happening, and no, it's not a problem, because damage done, right? Like damage done. If you're concerned about the government being able to track your data, if you're concerned about the corporations being able to have a backdoor and find out, that's already happening, right? That we are already doing that. That is happening right now. This isn't going to increase this problem. This isn't a vast government conspiracy to take away all your rights. And oh my God, they're gonna get you, gang. They're busting in your door right now. No, of course not. What this is a way, it's a tool for parents, right, to protect children. Obviously, if it's done shitty, it's going to be shitty. But when we talk about these things, all I'm advocating for is there to be some rules of the road when it comes to these things. The social media companies, if they're going to allow children on there, and yeah, it's not going to be perfect, as Tiberius said, there are workarounds, right? But I think this would honestly mitigate a lot of the damage here. And even if it only mitigates like it by 10 to 20%, that's a win in my book. There is absolutely very few downsides to allowing parents to track their child's activities on the internet. And I think making that a seatbelt law kind of thing deal, I have no problem with that, right? I have no problem.
Okay, well, it seems at this point what the argument just simply is we
doesn't
have this
matter, yeah.
we have the service provided by a private company, and some people on the panel want to make it a public function. That's just the question, right? If as
Which
long
would
as the
disagree
bill
with
is
all the presented bills, for the record.
right, and if what I'm concerned about, and it's hard because yeah,
Sammy's bill isn't even
right.
written.
None
How
of
can
these
you
none of these
oppose
bills
it?
are none of these bills are written, which is difficult. But like, let's say,
No, Kids
you know,
Online Safety Act is.
well,
Or, sorry,
let's say
chats.
let's say some of the stuff in this bill that's asked for is stuff like law enforcement monitoring or law enforcement stuff, backdoors and stuff.
Mhm.
I do think that's a Fourth Amendment concern. I am concerned about that. I'm not like Doobie. I read 1984 and I was concerned. I wasn't happy at the idea of everybody spying on me. I don't want the government to put cameras in my house because hey, they're watching me anyway. I don't give a fuck. Hey, no, I don't want that. So any kind of way we can, but at the same time, we have a very strong competing interest of children are getting molested and dying, and we can't have that. So we have to think of a policy where we minimize government overreach and surveillance and also protect children.
No,
I'm
you
not
don't.
sure I'm not sure this does this. I'm not sure this does that though as well as alternatives do.
So Scott, you can have a quick reply. Then I don't think I want to jump in. Then Ty and FK, but we're running out of time, guys. So
We just talk about we need a policy, right? We need a policy to protect the children. It's not the fact that the government isn't regulating these things enough or that these companies don't have enough regulatory capture. The problem is that parents aren't actively involved in doing and understanding what their kids are doing online. And none of these bills, so far as we can tell, right, have done anything to address this.
I agree they haven't done anything to address it. When I interned at the public defender, the most common factor I consistently saw among people convicted of crimes or victims of crimes were people who didn't have parents that were in their life, right? These are the people that are most vulnerable, and I think these are the people we should be concerned about, which this bill, to be honest with you, I agree, doesn't really address those people.
Lactoid, you weren't always a corporate shill. This is surprising to me. Let's go to Heil,
Anyway, like I said,
Ty, and
Yeah.
FK.
yeah, because this is something that Fabian and I are in agreement with. You know, we need to look at the parents. Parents need to have, you know, a better understanding on parenting and how to better help their children in this. Because, you know, I think I was shot down last time I spoke about this. But, you know, we all had parents that were, I'm not, apparently not all very competent 100%, but competent enough to keep us from killing ourselves from like stupid accidents or actual like, you know, drug dealings gone wrong and whatnot. Obviously, they stopped us from doing that. So I think we can say that, you know, parents have an obligation to, you know, at least know that their kids are like not going out in the middle of the night, getting up into trouble and joining gangs, you know, getting drugs and like overdosing on heroin. I think that's something we can do on even, and people are saying, oh, people don't know about technology. Listen, you don't have to be the most technologically literate person. You don't need to be Elon Musk, okay? Making memes on 4chan and Reddit every single day. You don't need to do that. You need to
Says the
have
person that
steady
said the pages
values.
on Snapchat.
Yep. That's what I just said, Spartacus. You don't need that.
Yeah, I know, but you had
What you
no
need to do
idea.
is you
But
need
you
to
had
step-
no,
you need
but
to-
you had
you need
no
to
idea.
listen.
You already failed when you
Okay,
said this
okay,
before.
Spartacus,
You had
Spartacus,
you already had
Spartacus,
no, you already
okay,
had
so
no,
wait,
you
but
already had
actually,
no
Spartacus,
idea what
but
was going on
actually,
Snapchat.
Spartacus, but
You already
actually,
have no
Spartacus,
idea. You
but
already have
actually,
no. You
Spartacus,
wait,
but
stop,
actually,
stop. You already
Spartacus,
have no
but actually,
idea.
Spartacus,
Okay,
you-
stop.
you
Whoa,
already-
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Spartacus,
not gonna.
but
Whoa,
actually, Spartacus, but actually, Spartacus.
I mean, I haven't talked in a long time.
Yeah.
Actually, Spartacus, like I was saying.
Let Al finish the point.
Actually, let me-
But I do want to
Okay.
hear what you have to say, Sprout.
So, but actually, Spartacus, like I was literally saying before you rudely interrupted me, is like you don't need to be the most technologically literate. You need to have, you know, care and investment into your child's life. You need to be able to take them aside and like speak to them, you know, and say, hey, how's your day going? Like, you know, let's talk about how you've been doing in school lately. Let's talk about drugs and how drugs are bad, and you know, you shouldn't be doing drugs, and you know, and you know, there are people on the internet that might be trying to like talk to you and convince you to do things that, you know,
Yo, this person's kids
you know
are
that
definitely
in
gonna
your
do
heart we
drugs.
shouldn't do because we have morals. And so you know, so you can engage your children in that way and actually prepare them for the outside world, even without necessarily having every single quarter knowledge of technological sufficiency. You can actually talk to your children and actually give them lessons and morals and values that will keep them from actually dying in a public bathroom at 3 o'clock in the night at the public park, okay, from a heroin overdose. You can actually do things like, you know. And so I think that's something that we can do. And that's not addressed in the bills. And that's what I think that we can have other ways of solving this problem. That's not this technocratic backdoors.
All right. So now,
Basil
what I'm saying
Esposito
is
2024.
You didn't know what the hell Snapchat was. You didn't know how Snapchat worked. You talked about kids being on random pages in Snapchat. Snapchat doesn't have pages. They have friends with text conversations and pictures. They have stories if you want to watch someone's stories, but there's no pages. You didn't know what the fuck the app was. You had no idea what the fuck was going on. But you're gonna sit here and say you don't need to be technologically literate to be the parent that I'm telling you to be. And if you're not that parent, then fuck you. You know what? You're the reason your kid died, right? And then your great solution for all of this, your great solution is for parents to teach Dare to their kids, because I mean I think we can all figure out how good Dare did.
What's wrong with Dare?
I won a medal
what's
in
wrong with
Dare.
Dare?
I have it hanging.
Dare did not work.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. I did Dare. I did the
Wait,
Dare. And
even
I
Dare
didn't-
changed their
I didn't
program.
overdose
Still
some
fuck. I
drugs, so
won
think
a
I'm with the Dare.
medal.
No, here's what's the annoying part. I hate that.
Okay,
Like,
and
I
we
understand.
didn't die for
As a
drugs,
parent,
it's a
you
job.
have certain responsibilities. You have certain duties to fulfill as a parent. But at the end of the day, a parent isn't just that. A kid doesn't just get raised by their parent, right? They get raised by the whole community around them. They get raised by what society is doing around them. They get raised by like the companies that are around them, especially nowadays. They get raised by what these companies are showing them, what they're providing them with. We can't just say, as a parent, it's your duty to deal with everything that your kid is up to. We have to realize we've gotten to a point where it's really hard, right? It used to be the case that The people that your kid talked to were you and the people within your community, the people that were very close to you, the people that you knew, your neighbor you talked to, that's it. Now it's the case that your kids are talking to some fucking random guy. They could be talking to Doobie, right? The most like predator person on the internet.
probably are talking
They could be talking to this man anywhere. They could be
talked
in
to
a
many
random
social
part of
media.
Europe talking to him. We can't just expect that parents should be like omnipotent beings that know everything that's going on. We should have an understanding that to an extent, parents do have control over their kids. We hold them responsible. But we should also say that the places that these kids are at, like, for example, when your kids are at school, your school is responsible for your kids. When your kids are online doing that dumb shit, at least that media company should have some responsibility to your society and to those kids to keep them safe.
Okay, let's go to Ty, but I agree, Doobie's never present danger. We all guard ourselves from that. Ty, please.
I also agree.
Yeah.
You should take your kids out of public
Shut up!
schools.
Let me talk for a second. All right, look. Whenever I was gonna take the sides in this particular argument at the beginning, is that I was largely gonna be more on the side like, look, this is gonna be a parents' first thing, and the state's really not gonna have a lot of hands on this. The problem is I had such an immediate revolting reaction to the people who spoke before me that like it's taken me literally 2 hours for Lactoid to like restore my sanity so I can fucking make an argument here. So here's the things that I actually really wanted to make in this conversation. Number one, while parents kind of are technologically illiterate, particularly when it comes to social media, there is a generational gap that's because of this. This is largely Gen X parents that were raising the kids that we were seeing growing up now, which are Gen Z. Now that the millennials are now the parental generation, I'm hoping, and there should be every indication that this is going to get better because millennials do understand the hardcore implications of what society or what social media can do to their kids. Now, unfortunately, the vast majority
kids are more online.
That more online versus less online isn't the thing that concerns me. It's how well the parents manage this, and the problem is that the data is going to be a little flimsy because the average
the data
age
that
between...
they have on this
Shut
as of
up!
right
I'm
now,
not done.
the data that they
Shut
have
the
as of
fuck
right
up!
now,
Whoa,
is that kids online in
whoa.
specific communities.
Hey. Our friend Ty has been waiting very patiently, like the most patiently of everyone. So let's let Ty finish the point, please.
The problem is with the data is that the average age difference between a millennial and their kids is 28 and it's tracking for 30. So we won't have good data on this for literally another 10 to 15 years because that is the difference between Alpha Gen and the millennial parents is that there is that much of a delay between people who are my age, who are like the core of the millennials, who are just now having kids versus their kids and what they're doing. So we won't have good data on this for a while. But at least by what we're seeing is that the parents who are becoming parents now should be, in theory, at least the most equipped to deal with this. The other side of this is that, look, I get people who are like, you know what, the government needs to like step in on this. And in a perfect society, I would 1,000% agree. But I am so tired this year of hearing about somebody who committed a mass shooting or some kind of fucking crazy heinous shit, and the government being like, well, he was on our watch list, but we just couldn't fucking do anything about it.
Yeah, right.
The level of absolute incompetence that the government is preaching to me lately just absolutely does not make me feel that they're qualified or equipped to deal with this shit. And that was my point. Thank you.
Yo, facts. Every single one of those people is on a watch list or in a Discord server with FBI agents.
FK.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Do you want to respond to Ty?
Oh no, I was saying, what they have tracked for kids nowadays, right, is especially amongst Gen Z, kids have pretty much cultivated their own communities. It's not the case anymore that kids are going online and they're seeing everything. What's happening is kids are creating niche communities. They're getting involved in these niche communities, and then a lot of kids from there end up getting preyed on because it's really easy to prey on in these niche communities if you don't have these companies tracking and making sure that these kids are safe. Right? It's easier to prey on somebody in a really small community because it's not really going to get out to anybody else.
I think the argument that Tiberius D is though, right, is that like when I was a kid, I was in AOL chat rooms with like crazy people, right? And my parents didn't even have a concept of like the internet or like predators or like, you know, the problems that could arise from that. And while parents today may not understand the apps they're using, may not understand the dangers associated with them, they at the very least have an understanding that like that's occurring and I need to educate myself if they care enough to do so in a way that like Gen X really did, like to try and steelman it a little bit.
that might be true, but again, we
Yep.
can't stop this all from happening. Like, it can't all be on the parents to just stop everything from happening. At some point, we have to say that the places that these people are congregating in and talking in and dealing or functioning in should have some responsibility to deal with these problems.
It seems like it'd be easier just to ban the kids, just like for the most part,
True,
just ban
actually.
them.
Yeah.
To not deal with this. And
I mean,
think
like
that's-
as a
Then how would I
parent,
talk? But then how
No,
would
no,
I
no,
talk to
just
them? That's the issue.
Oh boy. Let's go. Let's go. We've run out of time on this particular panel, but guess what? You're in luck. We have more content for you up ahead, right? So stick around. I'm gonna give an outro to all these amazing individuals, right? That we had a great conversation with. I'm gonna outro to them, but the content does not end. We still have more content for you. We have another panel be coming on. We have this. We're open panel where you can be a part of. So stick around, be a part of that. Jump on in. Love to have you. Thanks so much for social and chat for our social media, right? Hit that follow button here on Twitch. If you've done so, but hit that follow button. We'd love to have you for our later streams. And we have Twitter, where we tweet things, Discord, where we do everything, including open call panel. So be a part of our Discord, and all the other conversations happen there. So jump on in. TikTok is where you'll find videos related to the channel, and YouTube is where you'll find VODs, right? So hit up our YouTube channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Super chats also appreciate it. Big help. But like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so I'm gonna give an outro to these people, but guys, remember, more content after this, okay? So we'll go to our friend YMOK, who's come here to educate us on the plight of the Irish, I guess. I don't know. But thank you so much. What are you?
Yeah.
What's your what is your mix? You said you were born in England.
Oh no, I
guess
was
for
born in
military base?
okay, so I was born in Florida. I spent like a year there. Then we went to England for 3 years. Then we went back to Florida for 4 years. Then we went to England again for like 5 years. And then 'cause my father was in the military, so we ran all over. I was in Hawaii. While I was in England, we also were stationed for a little bit in Poland and Austria and some other places, but they were the very short amounts of time. Anyway, yeah, I'm Wick. Twitch.tv/Death of Certainty. Gang, we have some banger shit coming up tomorrow. I will be joined by Not So Erudite in my call-in show. So if you want to call in and get things off your chest to me and Not So Erudite, you may tomorrow about 6:30. I maybe have to push it back a little. She's got an appointment beforehand, but we're going to get it done. Thursday, gang. Thursday, I'm going to be interviewed by Fauna of Flora, and also I'm going on some Buddy Online's panel to talk about I'm not exactly sure what, but gang, the banger, the one you want to tune in for. Okay, Friday 6:00, I've gathered Biden's strongest warriors together, and they're going to be facing down Prime Cayes, Jeb Tan, and Beckett. So you're going to have Stardust, you're going to have IRI, you're going to have Icorich, and they're all going to battle, and we're going to talk about, is Biden succeeding? Is he doing well for this country? Tune in Friday, 6 p.m. That's me. Thank you for having me, Prime. Sub to Prime. He's a great host. Give him your money, gang.
Thanks so much, Wick. Right. But understanding you're a Florida man explains so many things. But no, thank you so much. Wick's a great character, guys. Go subscribe to my man Wick's Twitch channel. It's a great guy. Let's go to Scott. Thank you, Scott, for coming through. Oh man, like strange bedfellows today. But Scott, I do appreciate you coming.
That's why I
through.
went so hard in the first topic, because I knew you'd agree with me mostly in the second.
Okay, fair enough then. But yeah, thank you so much, Scott. Definitely do appreciate having you here. That's why I keep calling you back.
Yeah. So I am Scott from Fabian Liberty. We're an anarcho-capitalist duo stream. Engage often in libertarian philosophy. We do a bunch of interviews. Been doing some drama lately, but hopefully we can step away from that. Just doing a bunch of news and reactions and stuff. But tomorrow, if you want to get some educational content, check out tomorrow. We're going to be digging deep into McCarthyism. And the reason we're going to dig deep into McCarthyism is because none of you know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea who Joseph McCarthy is. You have no idea the historical facts. You guys just absorbed NPC talking points that Joseph McCarthy was bad and that, like, you know, he was going after people. And, like, the reason I know this and the reason that I felt like it was so big a deal, because it's been a big thing that's popping back up from some online Twitter stuff and libertarian spaces especially, is because if any of you knew anything about McCarthy whatsoever, you'd comment about the fact that Roy Cohn was Donald Trump's mentor. And that's what you would say about McCarthyism with your ever-loving Trump derangement syndrome. But it seems that you don't know any of those things. So if you want to come and get some educational stuff and learn about the threat of communism that was, you know, faced and pushed back, and the Un-American Activities Committee and all that good stuff, you should come check us out tomorrow.
Thank you so much. All right, and yeah, please, Scott, you got good programming over there on this channel. Please give him a shout out. Let's go to our friend Isle. Isle, thank you for joining us.
Yes, to tell his mods to shout me out, even though they shout out everyone else. I love it. He's like, come on, please.
You know, I was shocked and appalled, Prime. You know, I decided to join the PCNF community, and instantly I was attacked unfairly. I think, is this what it is to be a leftist? To be attacked unfairly and taken out of context for no reason by people who just want to make you seem like the bad guy?
Yeah, Isle. Yeah, Isle. This is exactly how it's like, Isle.
Yo, it's rough to be in this PCNF community. I'm sorry, I can't join you guys because you are on a mission to destruction. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna resign from that. Oh my god. Oh my god. But anyway, like I said, like speaking of the topics, you know, I think that, you know, as people, we have to look out for ourselves and look out for our families, because they're the ones that give us the most purpose in life and you know, the most satisfaction and joy of being in love, you know, our families and our close friends. And so I think it's not necessarily a beyond the pale to you know, ask and expect that, you know, to be a good parent, you know, to like just keep tabs on your children every once in a while, check in with them, say, hey, how you guys doing, blah 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 blah, you know, don't, you know, drugs are bad, okay, you know, gang violence bad, okay, and all sorts of stuff. And then, you know, and then try and steer them away from those negative influences in life and actually try and steer them towards something positive by, you know, implanting your own personal values and morals into them, because you, as their parents, they usually trust and respect you if you're a trustable and respectable individual. So I think that that's fine. And on the first topic, you know what, I think I can stand on what I said already. I don't think I need to go back into it. So yeah, you can find me on DeviantArt, you can find me on Pixiv, and yeah, I'm Isle of Isles.
I don't even know what those are.
Okay, let's go to our friend Tiberius. Tiberius, thanks for coming in.
The fuck is
joining
Pixiv?
us. A little bit about yourself.
Shit.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite.
Another avenue to groom my kids I don't know
anything
about.
like what I expected, so anything I prepared for pretty much went out the door within 30 seconds of the opening topics. So I apologize for that. I'll have to be a little bit more on my feet. But if you guys are actually interested in the guy who was largely mute this fucking episode, I do a lot of work regarding panels on this on this site. Me and Wick actually had done a panel right before the show. We were talking about, is purity testing a good thing or a bad thing? I actually largely argued that it was. And if you are interested in checking that out, you can check that out on Wick's channel on Twitch, or you're gonna see it on my YouTube channel tomorrow. Regarding all the other stuff that I do, basically it's pretty short and simple. I talk about geopolitics. My famous works regarding this is The Generating of Wealth and Why Certain Countries Are Rich and Poor. Definitely recommend checking that out on YouTube. I talk about the worldwide demography and how basically Europe's turning into an old folks home and the developing world is now following suit. It's just going to change everything. And I just finished, while we were doing this particular panel, the future of green energy presentation and how really it's the impossible future. And so if any of that is interesting to you, check out my Twitch, check out my YouTube. Nuclear. I will have all this content available for you soon. And Prime, thank you for inviting me once again. I will try to bring my A game next time, because wow, this one just threw me for a loop. But yeah, without further ado, it's a pleasure to see you all again, and I hope to see you again soon.
Agree.
Okay. Our friend Lactoid, I need to apologize to the Swedes here, right? I feel like you didn't get representation. I didn't even think of you. I had all my thoughts about black people and Latin individuals and Asian individuals, right? I didn't think of the Swedes, right? When we're going to think of the Swedes.
I
So
know.
I apologize, buddy.
We're going to talk about it on our next panel of all Swede everything, where only Swedish people are allowed, and we all talk about issues affecting Swedish people. Big thanks to you, Prime, for having me on. Big thank you to everybody here to talk to me. Some parting thoughts. I am now looking forward to watching the James Franco movie. Didn't actually hear about it until Prime contacted me, but now I look forward to watching white James Franco play white Fidel Castro. As to the second topic, I think we need to protect our children. The way to do this is not through government surveillance or mass liability, but through age gates. We don't expect the government to watch people that are in a strip club or bar. We just don't let children into those communities, and we let adults do what they want. Therefore, ban all children from porn sites, ban messaging between adults and children on social media, and create children's communities and regulate the content within those children's communities. I agree McCarthy is good. I also believe the Vietnam War was justified, and we would have won if it wasn't for the fucking hippies who fucked us and led Vietnam to the Dark Ages. Again, thank you, everybody. You can find me on Anti-Communism United on Discord and Twitch.
Wow, and he just drops a bomb like that, as they did on, Vietnamese children.
Mostly
but, okay.
Laos. Mostly Laos.
Yeah, obviously, they didn't drop them all.
A lot of Laotians died.
That reminds me, though, when you talked about the movie, is that I want to give a recommendation, guys. Watch Prey. It's on Hulu, right? Prey. It's a new Predator movie, Prey. I just watched that last night. It was fantastic. Good example of Native American representation. It was so good. It was the best Predator movie since the original Predator. It's so good. I loved it.
Yo, that might be
take a look at it, guys.
That might be
all right, let's
watch
go
on
to
Sunday, boys.
Sprouticus.
You might watch.
Thanks
Watch
for,
Prey.
coming through, right? Like Sprouticus. I didn't mean it before, right? You're a true American here, all right? Sprouticus doesn't come on talking about his background, right? And like, oh, I'm Swedish American. No, he puts that flag out there, and that flag says everything about him, all right? You don't need to know anything else, all right? So, Sprouticus, the true American, thanks for being here, buddy.
It's god awful, really.
I think I've said as much as I can on the first topic. With the second topic, it's not just hey, don't do drugs, and then expect your kid not to do drugs. That's not exactly the way that one works. Society has proven over and over and over again that's not the way that works. Kids sneak out in the middle of the night and go to parties. This happens. Kids sneak out in the middle of the night and do a whole bunch of shit. This happens. So putting the 100% onus on the parents for something that they literally cannot be held to. This is a standard that you are trying to hold parents to that is just unreliable. You cannot hold any parent to this standard unless you expect the kid to be.
It's impossible for parents to raise their children.
That you literally make the home a prison. But other than that, you can find me at the Sprouticus on Twitch, the Sprouticus on Twitter, and
the state must
talk to
be
you guys
involved
again
in raising your children.
Okay, thank you. All
It's
right.
impossible to raise your children without the government.
Hello. So
Next
this
we
is
have
it's me.
Go.
Yeah.
Next we have FK.
God damn. God damn.
Next we have FK. FK, thank you for being new. And joining us. Thank you. We actually really enjoyed having you. We're definitely gonna have you on in the future. We'd love to. You were passionate. You were well spoken. Exactly the type of people we're looking for. So thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you for having me on. Do you actually want me to go, or do you want Doobie to do it?
No, you can go.
Those eyes are really staring at me. All right. What's up, y'all? I'm just average FK on Twitch. I go by FK though normally. I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys. I know I was yelling with some of you. I know shit got heated. It was really fun though. At the end of the day, I think what it truly means to be an American is to care about your neighbor, right? And I don't think you just have to be an American. Like, I'm gonna say it, right? I'm just
care
gonna go
about my
ahead and say
neighbor.
it.
That's why I
think
don't want
no
them
matter
to be
where you
taxed.
are in the world, in your heart, there's a little American flag, and that flag will continue to expand over time. And it just means you're free. It means you truly have the will to fight for what's right. And what's right is not letting kids get raped on the internet. That's all I'm saying. Thank you guys. It's been fun. Prime, thank you so much for having me, an absolute nobody on here.
That's all right. Most of these people are nobodies. Let's go to. Oh, for fuck's sake. DB, what the shit? Dark.
Why does he have so many artwork?
What the shit?
There's so much
This is
artwork.
one of the esteemed users of our server, having a ton of fun talking to random people about shit nobody knows about. It's a great time. If you want to find me, you'll find me there. We will be having an AMA with Haas, Infrared, notorious genocidal tanky this weekend. That should be a good time. And yeah, discord.gg/politics or just politics.gg if you want to do it from your browser. That's where you'll find it. It's a great time.
with Doobie in chat.
Iris is coming for your
that
chore
link.
money.
So yeah,
Oh God.
that's what you
And
can
to be
expect.
clear,
man.
this
What
is
else are they
one
gonna
of
do with
our esteemed
87,000
mods
agents?
Who will watch your activity, watch every fucking thing you do. We're gonna track everything, record everything. It's a beautiful place.
To keep the kids safe, he does it for, right? To keep the kids
Exactly.
safe.
Well, actually, Doobie does it to target the kid.
I'm a huge fan of my man Doobie. Guys, go check out his setup there in the Politics Discord server. It's a lot of fun, and if you like arguing with people, right? If you're like Scott, if you're anything like Scott, you should enjoy your time there, all right? Let's go. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay. I got to get out of here before he puts more of that shit on. So thank you all for being here. Much appreciated. We are going to
Yes.
walk on panel anyway.
Yes,
You can
Future is
join in.
Anarchy.
And if you are welcome here, but if not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion, my community. I know they appreciate just as much as I do. Have a good one. Bye.
You just watched a clip from our Twitch channel, Fabian Liberty. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe here on YouTube, or go ahead and give us a follow on twitch.tv/Fabian Liberty.